session. Today's Monday, November 20th. I'm Sabrina Dunlap. We have Ken Traum, Stephen Whitley, Jeff Donahoe, and hopefully Thomas Lapoma will be walking in any minute. So, do you have anything you want to share, Ken, before we?
I just wanted to acknowledge the efforts that many people put in on the wood bag. Very good turnout, and what was really great in my eyes was the number of high school kids.
Okay. So first, we have to do some administrative things here. So first, approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda Monday, November 20, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, approval of the public meeting minutes from November 13th, 2023.
Before I remove them, I'd like to make an addition. On page 2, there were a number of bullets relating to the discussion about the cemetery. And I'd just like to have another bullet added that there was discussion about the cemetery trust funds.
Okay, is everyone okay with that amendment? Okay.
With that, I'll move we approve the public meeting minutes of November 13, 2023.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we have two non-publics to approve. First is approval of the non-public meeting minutes from November 13th, 2023, session 1. I believe that session is not sealed. That is.
Yeah, I'll move session 1 and note it is sealed.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No one opposed?
I'll say.
Okay. And approval of the non-public meeting minutes from November 13th, 2023, session 2.
I'll move to note they are not sealed.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
I'll say.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. So, we will start our meeting tonight in terms of the budget with the Webster Select Board, who is here virtually. So, hi, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you all.
Thank you for having us.
So, we will start with the transfer station, solid waste, and solid waste community well. And I would welcome the Webster Select Board to make any comments you want to start, or we can jump in on our side too.
I believe you have somebody presenting that to you, or is that not the case?
It's here.
Okay, good. Okay, Dan, perfect. Come on up. Thank you for being with us again.
No problem.
Kill the light over there so you can see it better.
All right, so page 40, transfer station.
It's actually page 20. Oh no, 39. Sorry. From the record. 40. Is it 40?
It's 40.
Yeah.
The old folks. Ready?
Ready, dive in.
So we can just want to go over the increases, I assume.
Yeah, anything else you wanna?
So the alarm system, we've increased. We were over budget. Some of that was due to some mice chewing the wires and some heat sensors that needed to get replaced. So we also had to rent a lift to be able to get to those. So that increased this year. That's why we're over budget currently. Computer services, Jolene told me they told her they're going to be going up. So that's the reason for that $300 increase. Electricity is going up just to reflect the trend on the electric usage over there. Trash transport and disposal. I believe Neil adjusted this. The information that Jolene had with the contract numbers were off a year. So we had 101, I had 101 in there, and it's really 93.13 per ton. So that, I believe, has been adjusted.
So what's the last number, please?
298.60.
And what's the correct cost per ton? You said 90.
93.13.
96, okay.
Demolition haulage, all the demolition is going up. So that just reflects, we also had a large pile of demo out back. We cleaned up an area out towards where the wood bank is. And that generated quite a bit of demo that we needed to get rid of. So there's a slight increase in that to get rid of that. I believe it is all gone now.
With that being all gone at this point, what is the reason for it to continue being increased?
It's the cost of all the demolition has gone up, so we're going back to the averages that we were based on years prior. I believe it's in the description of what the price increases are.
Yeah, I just didn't see an amount that was expected, so that's fine, thank you.
Oh, we didn't get a paper like with all the prices going up.
Demolition tipping fees are also going up, and they also add fuel surcharges. The fuel surcharges are hard to calibrate, so we took like an average and added that into the cost. That's all the increases. I'd like to also note, with CIP, we are still down one trailer. We're supposed to have 2 new trailers by now, but it's taking over a year to build them. So we put that on hold because the building packer itself needs to be replaced, and the previous CIP numbers were off. So all the numbers have increased dramatically, so we're just trying to play catch up at this point, trying not to put too much of a burden on either town.
So when you say the building, you talk about the hopper itself?
Yeah.
Which is not the trailer.
Yeah, that is in dire need to be replaced.
And that was there today.
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Well, that was a trailer malfunction. That was actually the new trailer, one of the hydraulic hoses got broken. So I believe it happened Saturday, and they could not bring a new empty trailer until today at around 4 o'clock. So it happens from time to time over there, trailer issues, and they get back. If you go over and watch the hopper, actually, the packer actually work, you'll see it's not good.
Too much movement in it.
Yeah, well, it's never been touched, the minor things fixed since it was put in, so it's pretty old.
So Dan, when do you expect the Packer to be replaced?
It's already been ordered, so whenever they say they're ready to put it in, it's going in. I believe that was in the CIP for this year.
Yes, it's correct.
What's the cost?
That was, I don't have those numbers. I think it was 100.
158, 150 in there.
That's Hopkins' portion, but I believe the total bill was 180 something.
So it's last year's appropriation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the total was 190 something. And the trailer number 1, you don't expect that in 2024?
I believe it's in there, I don't know what the new date is. Neil shuffle stuff around,
It's 2024.
2024. Which means we will order it next year, but it won't probably get here until '25.
And do you think that the rates we're charging for transfer station to be paid by the haulers or for tipping, demolition tipping fees, could they be increased?
I believe they're paying the rates, didn't we talk about this? Yeah, everything was supposed to get adjusted.
Talked about they do need to go up.
As of January 1?
That would be up to you, but we'll bring the proposal to you, so.
So that was actually part of my question for that, seeing that note of increased fees, is when did you want to go over that and the other portions of the ordinance? Because I know that's not
Wasn't
necessarily
catching.
budget.
Can we turn them up?
Can you repeat that? We're having some issues hearing you. I mean, you're coming through, it's just really hard to hear you.
Sure, can you hear me okay now?
I think Neil was trying to, I
Okay,
think we gotta be up as high as possible. If you can speak loudly, that would help.
sure. I actually am, but that's okay. With the fee structure, and I know that there was the note that we should be considering higher fees for things like tipping. When did you want to talk about that and the rest of the stuff that's in the ordinance? I know that's not all budgetary, so I didn't know when you wanted to look at that.
Got it, okay.
So my question would be, when are we gonna be done with,
With budget, so your next week budgets pretty much finish up, and then you're scheduled to meet the 11th after that.
and is it feasible to have this discussion on the 11th?
If it works for.
And is the 11th good for you, sir?
How is the 11th for the rest of the board? I will not be around much of December, but I am not the board.
Well, meaning talking the budget numbers, because we.
For
they don't-
tipping fees and
For tipping
similar.
fees.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. We'll
They-
be here, I guess.
They seem to be indicating that that sounds reasonable.
Okay, great. We'll plan on talking about it then.
She said that they'll plan on talking about it then. Then, we're gonna do, it's gonna be for this company's project. And what happens if we, and then,
You have more, Ken?
Any questions?
I guess sort of the elephant in the room is, do you feel that the transfer station is staffed appropriately?
No,
Mhm.
you're not.
And what could be done, what could be used?
Well, I've been talking to Neil about possibly, maybe eliminating a part-time position, turning it into a full-time position. When I started over there, there was 3 full-time people, and now it's 2 with part-timers filling in.
And if you went to 3, then could there be some kind of enforcement started up again?
Enforcement as far as
Well, making sure.
green bags and stuff like that.
Whether green bags.
3's not enough.
Or even just making sure that only Webster and Hopkinton residents.
So you would need 1 or possibly 2 people at times to just stand there and check every single person that came in. So that's gonna eliminate all the other stuff that needs to get done over there.
Mhm.
When I worked there, I started in 1997. We we did that a couple times in the 4 years that I worked there, and you can't keep up with people. If you want to check every single person that comes in, you basically need someone there just for that purpose. And I believe the recycle committee back 7 or 8 years ago, they went out and tried to do that, and were like amazed at how much they have to just sit there and babysit, basically. And any given Saturday, there's just a ton of traffic going in there.
How come we don't have stickers anymore? Years ago, we had stickers. Is that not feasible anymore for people to go to the dump?
And we do still have stickers for the dump.
We do?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I think they asked about stickers and whether we still had them, and we do. I think the problem is, to your point, you would need someone dedicated to standing there checking stickers and or like IDs.
So I know that some of those points, for example, whether there are stickers or not, and other people possibly dumping in our transfer station, have been brought up in a letter that was sent to both boards by, I believe her name was Bonnie, regarding from the recycling. And my thinking and suggestion there would be that, having spent a bunch of time and talked to a bunch of people while I've been at the transfer station, I haven't seen a lot of non-residents there, if any. But that is something that if they believe that is an issue, then perhaps they can go do the count for a month, and we can extrapolate from that for how many people they find from each town and not from either town.
So I will also interject, and back when I did work there, the 2 or 3 times that we did do that, we did not catch a lot of people. 1 or 2 maybe. People see a plate from Massachusetts, New Jersey, oh my God, somebody from another state's dumping stuff. Well, they have a summer camp here.
Yeah.
So you have a summer camp, so you can't dump at the transfer station, so they're allowed to dump here. If someone else sees that, or sees a truck or car coming from Concord, and they're like, oh, they're coming from Concord. No, they're just coming the back way from Webster.
So what's, just, and you may not be the person to answer, Dan, what's the process for someone who's from out of state to get a sticker? They have to show up with a property tax bill?
Something to that effect, yes.
Thanks.
At least here, the stickers are handled by the town clerk, so the town clerk is able to check residency, just like they would for other abilities.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Jeff, that I know a number of folks that have cottages on Lake Joe Sylvia that they summer up here and they winter in Florida, and they're Florida residents, but they take advantage of transfer appropriately.
No, it's just back to the question, do you have a sticker?
Mhm.
Because if you don't, you have to find a way to get one and prove it. I've discussed publicly before, I think we should be throwing more people out. And I disagree, I don't disagree. I know of people from Concord who use the transfer station, who dump their stuff in, and, you know,
I can only say from my experience 20 some odd years ago. But I will also say that if you do this, you need to be prepared to deal with unruly people.
Right.
Just because, you caught them doesn't mean they're gonna say, oh, okay, I'm leaving now. No, it does not always work that way. And it did not back then, and I'm sure it's not gonna now.
Can I just, before you go on, just go back to the staffing level? So you said that you'd like to move one position from part-time to full-time?
Yeah.
What would that enable the transfer
A
station?
more steady workforce,
So less overtime?
possibly, yes.
In terms of the operation of the transfer station, other than a steady sort of presence, anything else that would be, sort of a change?
I don't know. I think just having that person there would help on the weekends and stuff too. I know we're having some issues with, I don't want to get into a lot right now, but having some issues with some personnel.
Yeah, and I agree that now is probably not the time, or at least in public session, to get into that. But do you know if there was a change from part-time to full-time, what would be the budget impact of doing that?
I don't know that currently, no.
Neil, do you happen to know that?
Without going and looking.
This is just the talking stage right now, trying to figure out the best course to move forward.
Okay, no, I just wanted to sort of finish the thought, because you brought it up.
So as it says, we have two full-time, 3 part-time. I would say the majority of time in the last 5 years, we've been down at least one of those positions. We've been down one of the part-time positions. Those positions are really hard to fill.
Yeah.
Not saying the full-time position won't be hard to fill either, and it will be, but.
Right.
But in theory, you should have a little less turnover with a full-time position than you would with continual part-times.
That would be a hope, yes.
For building repairs, do you have anything specific in mind for 2024?
It's just normal building repairs that it needs, and it's getting to be pretty old. One of the buildings we're actually going to tear down. It's the lean-to that's out in the back, and it's going to replace that with shipping containers. It's got a post broken, it's full of holes, it's not worth putting the money into fixing it, I don't believe. And we're already on the right track with shipping containers, so the ones from the school actually gave us a shipping container, and we have the ones that we rented for the library, that are at the library from the barn being moved.
Neil or Dan, do either of you remember when we dropped from 3 full-time down to just 2?
I was still there.
Okay.
Um,
No one.
It was before my time.
Okay.
I'm assuming it was somewhere around 2000.
Okay. Thanks. Right, good to move on. I'll just solid waste. Great, so we're in, yeah. Okay.
So while that shows up, Neil, I know you've mentioned, and we see some of the Novus contract for NHDES listed here. I thought that was a fair amount more than is listed here, though. If you want to touch on that briefly and what we should expect when.
Sure. So the total Novus contract, I believe, is 145. So we have the engineering fees, which is, we'll walk through it line by line. 390 is the regular engineering fees, which are for the monitoring of the landfill. So that's been an ongoing cost. Those, some years are higher than others due to more DES requirements in certain years. The professional services for the lagoon, the total for that, I believe is 145 over the next 3 years. We had budgeted more last year, which we'll be able to encumber, and then the other amount. So it's really, we can give you the year-by-year breakdown for Webster, but the total is 145. And then hazardous waste day is up in that line because it's costing that much more. And Henniker has said that's what it will be. That's the joint day with Henniker. And this actually is the amount for both towns. So I don't know if you've budgeted that somewhere else, but this is the full amount for both towns.
And so are you expecting that with this 150 that you had and are encumbering a bunch of, plus the 60 coming up, that will actually cover it over 2 years instead of needing 3 years?
So the 150 should cover the 3 years, yes.
So Neil, now I'm confused, then why are we budgeting, why is there a proposal to budget 60,000 in 2024?
That's actually a good question. I will check on that and clarify that for you.
Thank you. Hopefully we don't have to.
I'll check. My mind's gone blank, I apologize.
And the thought is that we go out for a request to bond at town meeting in March of 2025?
Correct.
Out of curiosity as much as anything, hazardous waste day, I know I participated in it this year, and it didn't seem like there were many people taking advantage of it. I guess the first question, is it worth it? And are we're budgeting so much more than we did last year. Why is that?
So, two things. The cost has gone up, and yes, people did use it. It's based on use. And actually, they had to shut it down before the end of the time because they had met the maximum amount. So it is being used. I really think if you don't, hazardous waste has to go somewhere, and hopefully this is helping to keep it from going into septics and into the wastewater treatment system and all
On the side of the road?
or on the side of the road.
I'm fine with that. It was just that when I went early in the morning, there was no line or anything like that.
So why do we have no year-to-date expenditure if we had it this year?
We haven't received the bill from from Henniker yet.
Do you have any sense of how much Webster and Hopkinton residents actually use the hazardous waste day versus just that they had a bunch of people show up that used it, including their own residents?
They track it, but I can get that from Henniker. They usually send that with the bill, so I'll make sure that they do.
And I had to show I was a Hopkinton resident before I could unload it.
And then lastly is community well. Basically, Dan, you put in for community well, basically the same.
Same
We're-
budget, same says everything is.
As you know, we're in transition with staffing on that because we haven't filled that position, but
So if it's basically the same, what's driving the reductions?
wages, because the person that was doing it was a full-time employee, and it costs more if they did extra hours, and this would be part of the job, so it's just straight pay. That's the main difference.
Any other questions for Dan from our board? Webster, do you have any other questions for Dan or comments?
I'll ask kind of an overarching question, and maybe this, because this is budget, it might not be the time for a full discussion on it, but what, if anything, is being looked at, as I know you're looking towards new equipment and eventually a new replacement for the recycling center? How are you looking at and planning for the ability to do other portions or processes there, be it to make the recycling more efficient, as has been talked about for the change in the building before, and or for further reductions in incoming waste, whether that's another previously talked about topic that didn't work out yet, for things such as food waste?
Well, I think moving forward, the last meeting I had with the recycling committee was, we were just kind of watching. The last meeting we had was, I think, right around COVID or pre-COVID, and recycling was way down. So I had proposed a horizontal baler back then, but it did receive a lot of negativity because of the cost. And Jolene would rather not have one because people do not adhere to the material that's getting dumped in the recycling center. I mean, it's very dirty. So there has to be a constant check on what's being thrown away to get it cleaned up so we can bale it. So just having something that you can just throw something into and have it baled or use the skid steer or loader to load something is not an option really at this point. I guess it's the recycling center itself is just that the building needs to be worked on badly. A lot of the boards are broken. The tin siding is full of holes in the back from the forks. You're thinking more of a concrete back with concrete walls coming out instead of the blocks, because the blocks move and shift. That's basically what the upgrades to the recycling building were. And also make it tall enough so the packers can dump the cardboard without hitting the roof.
That's 2030.
Any other questions or comments?
Right now.
Clinton? All right.
How much is budgeted for that in 2030?
150.
That won't be enough.
Yeah, I don't know if that's not down.
That's kind of beyond the 6 years that has been more closely looked at.
Also, you said the food scrap thing. To touch on that, I did give Neil a number. I think it was for 30 or 35,000. The current brush / compost area that we have has never been prepped to do that. It was just always done in the existing soil. And we have to run solid tires in the loader because of all the metal and stuff, running over trash, et cetera. We tried air-filled tires once, and I think it lasted about a month. So we have to run those tires, and those tires are not great for working in sand, and that's what's down there. So when we built the current bins down back for brush, cat waste, and compost, we paved what we thought was a big enough area, but people dragged their brush and stuff out on the pavement into the dirt, so now that pavement's getting broke up. So there really needs to be crushed gravel put down there. I mean, ideally pavement would be the absolute best, but we don't want to spend that kind of money, but crushed gravel even is going to be around $30,000. Put 6, 8 inches of crushed gravel down in that hole so the loader's not digging into sand every time it's trying to turn compost. I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, I'm just saying I think we should fix the area before we add more to it.
So are you expecting that 30,000 would be enough to fix current plus what you would expect for food waste? Or just to fix current?
That's just to fix that area so you could take on other stuff.
And you can do compost on crushed gravel.
Yeah.
Would there be an additional personnel cost to do compost?
That I don't know.
Okay. So the 30,000 then would just get the.
It's just the materials to get the area.
Ready for composting, and then there could be an additional cost beyond that.
Would you have to do sidewalls or something like that?
Well, we used the old, they built a recycling overflow area at one point, and it was never used. And so we used those blocks down below to build the bins for the brush and cat waste and stuff. And I believe there's some blocks still left over, so you could build another bay if you had to. But we'd have to pave another area for the people to dump into.
Anything else for Dan at the moment?
Really?
So, Webster, I don't know if you have any other thoughts or comments for Dan?
Anything? Would you want to say anything if it's open to the public? Okay. I think we are good at the moment. My only question would be regarding that 30,000 estimate for gravel. Is that something that would help both in time and possible personnel existing, since you wouldn't have the same problems that you do with the sands now for handling what you're already handling?
I only caught part of that, I'm sorry.
So the 30,000 that you estimated for the gravel area, would that see further reductions elsewhere? For example, in either hours or machine maintenance, because you're making it more efficient and easier and less hard on equipment to handle what you're
Yeah.
already doing?
Yes, it would help them dramatically. It would speed up the time that they would have to turn the compost. And it would help them scoop up the brush and stuff to carry it out where it needs to get ground up. I can't give you a number on how much that would help, but it would definitely help. I don't think it's significant, but.
I know we're not CIP, but I would appreciate at least some sort of informative piece for that to be considered by the CIP committees for future. Anything else? We good?
No.
I believe that's everything we had to ask.
Okay, thank you. So I know we've gotten some emails about folks being able to make public comment. So I don't know if the will of the board is to move on to capital expenditures and then take some public comment, or if you want to stick to this subject matter, since I believe that's what people are here for.
Yeah, everybody I see here is probably there for that, so let's accommodate that.
That seems reasonable. All right, so Dan, thank you. You're free to go. Thank you for all of your work on this.
Okay.
And you might want to stay close to the microphone, because I anticipate that a lot of these questions are going to be tossed to you.
Bonnie, would you like to make some comments, or anyone else from the Waste Reduction Committee?
Sure, and could I sit up here too, because I have my laptop and my various papers and questions, is that all right? Instead of standing at the microphone?
Sure. You have a problem with it? Okay. I think that's okay, so you don't drop your computer.
Verify? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Have to use the microphone.
Yeah.
Bonnie Christie, 302 Smithfield Road, Hopkinton. Thank you, Dan. Some of my questions were answered by things that you addressed already. I have an overall statement that I'd like to preface my budget questions with. What I'd like to say is that I see that the budget, overall, it's supposed to be a tool to implement policy and to implement changes that will benefit the town and reflect our values as a town. At least I think that's what a budget should be. I think too often it's just looking at last year's and tweaking things up and down depending on the price of oil or, you know, how much a 10-yard packer costs, whatever. I think in order to have, a budget that reflects policy and the values of the town, you've got to have a policy. And we have no policy on waste. We have no plan on waste. We just do what we've always done. And when something wears out, we scramble around to try to replace it, but we don't do anything different. So I think that waste is not, we shouldn't look at it as, it's just a fact of life and it's a neutral issue. I think waste is a fact of life, and there's a trend now going towards what is called zero waste. And I think getting down to actual zero waste may be impossible, but we can sure do a lot better than we are now. So I think we should look at our assumptions about, whether it's okay to have no policy, no plan, no goals. If we're going to reduce our waste, we have to have a plan. I would recommend, and I've mentioned this before, a 5-year plan at least, if not a 10-year, just like the CIP plans out quite a few years ahead, 6 years and more. And then we have to have actions that we're going to do to implement these things in the policy and these goals. We have a state plan that we could very easily model our town plan around. A lot of the research and work has already been done by people who have a lot more information and experience than we do, and we could certainly build upon that. But that's my first recommendation, is that we really need at least a 5-year plan. And the 5-year plan could guide our capital improvement plan, which I know is supposed to come. When I read the article from the Municipal Association about how CIPs work, they're supposed to be based on what's in your master plan. If you look at our master plan, the section on the transfer station is from 2002. And it says basically, we were paying $37 a ton then. Now we're paying $93.13 a ton. And it said, we don't see any need for any increased staff or equipment in the foreseeable future. Well, there's been a lot of water over the dam since then, and I know that the planning board is working with the regional planning office to develop that chapter of our master plan. So hopefully that will be done this year. And that would be something that I think would be a very helpful guide, not only for the capital improvement plan, but for the operational budget year to year. The second thing is I said that I think a budget should produce changes that benefit the town and reflect our values. And the only benefit that, I mean, this is just my observation, that we get from our transfer station is we move trash from place to place. We move it from our kitchens and our basements and our garages and our yard waste into our bins, and then we take that to the transfer station and they send it to a landfill or an incinerator. So, and we pay a lot of money for that. We pay a huge amount of money for that. But there's no benefit to the environment, and I don't think it's serving our pocketbooks as taxpayers. And a couple of examples, it's not serving the environment. You have the example of the lagoons. Here's a transfer station. On one end, we have lagoons with a close to $4 million cleanup price tag. On the other end, we haven't really talked about this, but that woods is full of trash. And I think a fence, the Conservation Commission asked that a fence be put up to contain that trash. For years, it's just been plowed over and blown over into the woods and down into Deer Meadow Brook, and a very valuable wetland down there. And nobody looks at it, nobody does anything, it just keeps piling up down there. Yeah, I've heard that. I hope it's gonna go up in time for plowing season. Okay, good. That's excellent to hear. I'm very happy to hear that.
A lot of the trash is still that bank was there, out there, it's just
Yeah, I mean, that would be great to get that trash out of there, and also to have the fence to keep it from going out with the snow plow. And that's.
Bonnie, I don't want to cut you off. We do have a lot to get through tonight, so I don't know how much longer you have in your comments.
Well, I apologize for that, but
I'm trying to get a sense of like what else you have to, because I mean, making a comment about the transfer station not serving the environment is, I think, more of a philosophical conversation that's not.
But when else is there an opportunity to do that? I'm talking about the budget. I'm talking about the budget. We're not budgeting to address any of these issues. I can tie it into the budget from that perspective. And I really haven't seen how many other citizens have even come to any of the budget work sessions, or read the budget, or
Yeah, I wish more people.
asked questions, or talked. I mean, I'm trying to.
No, I'd be helpful.
If you have questions. so-
Yeah, I appreciate it.
They're
I'm not
coming,
trying
they're
to
coming.
put you down. I'm just saying we do have a lot to get through, and so
Well, I
some of these are
appreciate
a little
that.
more philosophical.
I spent the whole weekend working on this. Anyway, here's something that I think is relevant. I think you all have this report from NRRA, which showed how much more, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, Hopkinton pays to run our transfer station than other towns of similar population. Why is that? What are we doing or not doing that does that? And how do we unpack that? I think part of that is looking at the budget and saying, like, I think the discussion, I was really happy to hear the discussion about, maybe switching a part-time employee and having one more full-time employee. And you get some savings from overtime, but I was talking to Jolene today, and she was saying, we were talking about needing a horizontal baler, which would be $96,000 or more. And the advantage to that is the baler is so much more efficient. You just load stuff into it. But she said that there's enough contamination in the piles of what people put in there that you'd still have to have somebody hand filtering everything that goes into the horizontal baler to make sure we don't have, peanut butter jars in with the cardboard and that kind of thing. So it seems to me if we had a full-time person that was in charge of planning and education and overseeing some of these things, getting out, communicating with the people, being there in the mix of people every day, then we could avoid the contamination problems. Then instead of hand feeding into the baler, we could do it by a skid steer load, just bail it in and bail it in. And other towns do this. And they seem to be able to sell their recyclables. I don't know how they're dealing with their contamination. But it just doesn't seem a benefit to the town to move piles of trash around the same way we've been doing it forever. So I do hope that you would consider adding a full-time employee. And to my knowledge, talking to Jolene, I don't know how many years this is true, but she said, I said, this year, how many months of this year have we had three part-time employees? She said, maybe half, if we're lucky.
I think we have a question from Webster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
Oh, you're muted, hang on.
sorry about that. I just wanted to point out a quick little bit there. Having read through Bonnie's letter to both boards, I know one of the pieces that she pointed out was the comparison with Peterborough. And everything she's saying makes sense and sounds correct on face value when you look at the big numbers. But one of the things that's really interesting is if you go look at their actual recycled material cost, their recycling department states that it starts with the recycling center processed a total of 1,021 tons of material. But the second sentence is, out of that figure, a total of 223 tons were able to be recycled. So they're really not putting out the recycling numbers that many people think they are. And a lot of that is due to the sorts of contamination issues that have been brought up. And so I just wanted to point that out, which hopefully is a good reference.
He said out of the 1,021 tons that they report as recyclable, only 220 get recycled because of contamination.
So where is that information coming from?
Use the microphone so we can hear you.
Where is that information coming from? I'd be interested to see it.
Yeah, so if you go look at Peterborough's website under their reports, it is their recycling department report, and it's like the first or second line of it.
Okay, so that's a good thing. I think that we do need to unpack this in a more thorough way, and I don't know when the time and what the group is to do it, but I think when the budget comes up, that's a good time to start talking about it. So my two recommendations are, first, that we have a 5-year plan at least, and second, that we add the full-time employee and get rid of at least one of the part-time employees, and that we start investing, and maybe this will come up in the capital fund, capital plan. We need to start investing in our staff, in training our staff, educating our staff, paying our staff well enough to retain them. And we need a baler that's efficient. We need a shed that's not full of holes, like Dan said. I mean, most recycling centers now are built, we're sort of backwards. The small area where you put your recyclables is in the front, and all the loading and the loaders and the moving and everything happens in the back. So I think we do need investment in that. And I would really like to see the stickers used. It keeps coming up over and over again from people, anecdotally. And I disagree, Dan. I don't think you have to have a full-time person standing there all the time. I think it's like when you have the police patrolling the streets. You don't have to have a cop car in every corner all day, every day. You have to just let people know that on any given day, they could be there. And if you're not in compliance, you've got a problem. So I think that could be part of the work of the new full-time employee. So. I did have specific budget questions. Do you know the breakdown of the 2 full-time salaried employees, Dan? No? Does anybody know?
We could provide that.
Okay. We answered the question about the part-time wages, the overtime. It looks like we're budgeting, in 2021, we paid $5,148 in overtime, and next year we're budgeting $10,904. How does that?
Short-handed, and we need to take that time to get caught up on the recycling surveillance. And also, you have your holidays, that kind of stuff, which falls on some days, so they get paid overtime to do the holidays, snowstorms. So,
And to clarify, the proposed budget for next year is 8,000.
8,000 for what?
Overtime.
Overtime.
I think the 10,904 was this year's year-to-date.
And that's always higher when we're short-staffed because full-time staff has to cover.
And we're always short-staffed, right?
That's,
Pretty much. So
that's what I said over the
Yeah,
last 5
exactly.
years. A good portion of it.
Okay. The alarm you addressed, trash transport and disposal, we got that cleared up, what the price will be. Haulage and demolition, why are there all these different fees? I know we have one tipping fee for MSW. And so, like,
different amounts to get rid of the different materials.
and we bring each of those materials to a different place and they charge different things, like shingles don't go to the same places. Okay, okay, good. It's just hard to understand it from the budget.
PSCDA, which is pre-sorted construction debris, you have SW, so are separated where you have the shingles.
Yep. And for the building repairs, every year it's about 15,000, right? And it's, every year it lists the same repairs. Which repairs were done in the past year and which ones are we expecting to be done? Okay,
We've upgraded the bathroom to,
right.
new floors. There's all kinds of repairs being done up there.
Yeah. I would just be interested to know what they are. Maybe we could, okay, it would be interesting. Yeah. I'm just wondering, it's the same list every year, so. Conferences and training, could we get some feedback from the training that the staff gets? Because I know, there's a lot to be learned at the NRRA conference that they all go to, but I don't know, I don't see how that gets translated into any improvements at the transfer station.
What do you mean by feedback from the training? What do you mean?
Well, like Jolene could come back and say, oh, I went to this great workshop on composting. And I think we could do this and this and this and reduce our MSW by this if we started composting. Just, acting on some of it. It's supposed to be learning and training. Okay. The horizontal baler, we talked about that. Hydration stations, the Waste Reduction Committee has looked for hydration stations, at least one, if not more, at some point, and we wanted that to be in Riverway Park near the bicycle repair spot, and that would keep people from having to buy bottled water. And you could do that at playing fields as well, and they could bring their own, and that would reduce some of our container recycling. And then we've talked about recycling bins. I think Ginny Haynes has worked with you about purchasing recycling bins.
She left some pamphlets, yes.
Okay, do you think we could get those in the budget this year?
They're not in the budget this year, at this point.
Okay.
Oh, bins for like various.
Well, we have trash bins, but, you know, there's a lot of recyclable bottles and cans and stuff, and Jenny spent a lot of time pricing those out and doing it herself at various events, and I know we would really like to do that.
I don't think we received a proposal. We received some pamphlets that these are some containers we could get, which meant I was supposed to research it and provide
Could you-
what we're looking for. If you have a proposal, you can certainly submit it, but that's not a proposal. Those are just,
Did Jenny know that she was asked to do a research proposal with dollars? She thought she had talked to you.
I think it sort of goes to like the role of the waste reduction committee. I mean, if you want to propose that we put something in the budget, it makes sense that we'd actually propose.
Could we put in as a placeholder that we'd like one hydration station and maybe 3 recycling bins, and we'll get you some numbers? Would that work? Riverway Park, maybe over by the playground, next to the library. Oh, I don't know where that is. Well, if that's there, that's a help. Okay. 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 Sorry to take up so much.
No, we appreciate your diligence, and I think, you know, on something like the 5-year plan, it seems like, again, that would be a great place for the waste reduction committee to,
No,
step in.
no.
Oh, okay. But if it's tasked with dealing with waste reduction, doesn't it make sense that that committee would?
Isn't this the job of the Department of Public Works and the transfer station to run it efficiently and effectively and keep the costs down to the taxpayers and figure out a way to do that?
And, yeah, but we're talking, if you're gonna bring up something like a 5-year plan, it sure seems to me that that committee makes sense to work on that, so.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Steve Eckberg, 240 Amesbury Road, Kentucky. Hi, Dan. How are you? Good, thanks. I'm not sure whether my question's for Dan or the select board. I have a quick question about the overall budget. And also, I'm looking at the other side of the accounting, which is the revenue side, which is on a different page, different section of the budget report. But it looks like the overall transfer station cost estimate is in the neighborhood of $800,000. The select board proposed number of $781,000, if I'm reading that correctly. And when I look over at the revenue side, Webster's share of the cost of the transfer station is shown as 25% of the overall cost, and the select board has an estimated number of 150,000 in there. And so I'm not seeing 150,000 as a 25% cost of 800,000. So I'm wondering how to calculate that.
Sure, you'd want to take out the income from transfer station commercial first.
Okay, so so removing the 140,000,
And similarly for recycling receipts.
okay? And,
we share costs and revenues.
right. How does the paper bag revenue go in there?
100% to Hopkinton.
100% to Hopkinton, that makes sense. Okay, that's very helpful, thank you for that. I'll do a little more back of the envelope calculation, see if I can get the numbers to work out.
We can discuss it in the energy committee.
Okay. And I'm optimistic that the energy prices might go down a little, so hopefully that won't be a budget buster this year like it was last winter.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't
That'd be
it?
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have a crystal ball on that, but maybe just a little bit of insight in that area.
I did just run those numbers, if you subtract all those out, it does come to 150.
Thank you very much.
That sounds.
Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. Let's get that sent you. Ma'am, select board.
Ma'am?
Terry Rondo, 432 East Pennacook Road, Kentucky, New Hampshire, 45-year resident. One more full-time employee is not going to do it. I ran a business for 28 years, a successful business, and you're just not going to run that place with three more people. With three people told not to do the proper recycling, not to do the proper inspection of cars that come in, to make sure that nothing gets contaminated, that somebody's running the baler, somebody's minding the business, somebody's taking the receipts and weighing them.
It wasn't to get rid of all the part-timers, it was having one full-time, either one of the part-timers.
I understand that. I still see fine people there full-time. Personally, okay, to run it efficiently. Because at this point, we've got 2 full-time, 1.5 part-time at times, and no enforcement, no regulation, no separation, no nothing. People are bringing it in, it's going out, but it's a mess. That place is a total disaster. We have, all due respect, you worked there 20 years ago. We didn't have e-commerce with the amount of cardboard that we have coming in these days. We didn't have as much of anything 20 years ago. So be prepared, because I think, personally, looking at it, that's a 5-man job, 5-person's job, excuse me, Sabrina. It's, and Webster. So that's what I see. And capital improvements, yeah, that place needs to be improved. It needs balers, no doubt. So to look at this and not throw a lot of money at it is not realistic in the long-term future. Not for me, not the way I see it. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well,
Anyone not, come on up. Good evening, I'm Meredith Hatfield at 68 Apple Tree Lane. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to comment. The thing that's on my mind is tipping fees. And at the end of that 2-page document that NRA provided, they opined that commercial hauler fees should be above the amount it costs to dispose of a ton of MSW. They say at least $150 a ton. I don't have the expertise to know what the number should be, but I thought that's an interesting point. I also heard recently that there's a quote-unquote free amount that we each, as a resident, could bring to the transfer station and not get weighed and dump it from a truck. Under 400 pounds, thank you. And that doesn't make any sense to me, because I could do that multiple times a day, every day of the year, potentially, if no one is checking a sticker or what the weight is. And so that's paid for by everyone. It just does not make any sense. And in terms of stickers, you know, I know that enforcement is hard, but we have to do it. We have to figure out a way to do it, because otherwise we are paying for other people's trash, and you know, that's just not okay. So I think we need to figure out how we get people to follow our rules, because when they don't, it's expensive. And it's also really wasteful, because what someone is throwing in the hopper illegally could be all recyclable as well. So I think the education and the enforcement need to go hand in hand, and maybe we need better stickers that are easier to see, in addition to the staffing or volunteers. If we could figure out a legal way, you know, I know members of the
Waste Reduction Committee would be willing to assist with that if that would be an option. And I really like the idea of a plan. I am also aware that that DES recently went through a really robust planning process, and maybe that's something that we could start doing for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Meredith.
Pat McCree, Highland Avenue and Waste Reduction Committee Chair. Dan, just one quick question. Does Waste Management do the construction and demolition hauling as well as the? Okay, I didn't know if there was a separate contract for that.
No, I believe it's someone else.
I'm pretty sure it's someone else.
So there's another rate at which that, I mean, I understood that from looking at the budget, there's another rate for C&D than the way, the
different types of demos.
yeah, right, yeah. Okay, I just wanted a point of clarification for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments about transfer station? All right. So, we can move on to capital expenditures, and thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
We
Dan.
appreciate your time and all that you do. Yeah.
Any comments or questions after all of that?
Oh, I don't have anything.
All right, well, thank you for having us. We look forward to that with the couple numbers shored up that you mentioned previously. And we look forward to talking about the fee schedules and other things in the ordinance, which would also include, for example, the prices and whether they should be forever or annually for things like stickers. So thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So that concludes our joint meeting portion with Hopkinton. And let me find our agenda now. Actually, before I do that, does anyone here have questions or comments about the whole transfer station that maybe we can answer and or take with us into the future meeting? Yes?
Well, I'd certainly be curious to know how the discussions around the PFAS are going and whether the cleanup for that is going to be rolled into a CIP long-term thing, or is the community looking at, because I know the cost of remediation on that's going to be pretty pricey. How is that going to be handled?
So the way that it looks like Hopkinton is trying to handle that now is that the original engineering is basically going to have come out of the operating budget. They had scheduled a lot of it for last year that was not used, so they're going to encumber most of that for this coming year. That should cover most of the engineering work for it.
So we don't have any, we're not part of that?
Well, we are, because that's operating budget and we pay that.
Right,
So
so
that's
25% of whatever.
Right, so our operating budget portion was up and will probably be up a little bit again next year for
Okay.
that. The way that they appear to be talking about going for the full remediation portion afterwards, which is the multi-million-dollar portion, they're looking at 2025 going to their town meeting and requesting a bond to do it all, at which point it would go into their operating budget and we would continue to pay yearly towards that. So it would just be a larger fee for us. I believe they brought some numbers to the CIP committee about that were kind of early estimates. And it would kind of be loaded up front and then tail off for, I don't remember, did they say 20 or 25, something like that, years. And one of the things that I wanted to ask Dana about there was we have the funds towards the transfer station where we're saving towards, for example, improvements in the loaders and so on. Is that same fund able to be used to offset, for example, the first year or two of that bond so that we can kind of flatten out that first year or two with now when we're not collecting for that bond?
So you're asking for the bond, the Webster share of the bond payment, is that what I understand? And the answer is yes. That
Okay,
would work.
so we could put that into the fund, or, like, we could put some into the fund to help offset that in a couple of years?
Yes.
Because that would kind of flatten it out and take the initial 2 years of dramatically higher payments.
So just a quick follow-up. Does that appear as a warrant article for the townspeople to vote on, or is that something that is just going to happen?
So bonding would be the municipality that's doing it would have to put it on their warrant article.
So that would be Hopkinton?
That would be Hopkinton's warrant.
But we're part of that though. I wanna understand how our community has a say in the amount of money that, you know what I'm trying to say here.
So yeah, and this gets back to a point that I believe Craig had made previously where how do we actually do the full, like, operation and the way that things work? There's certainly limits because we're the small portion of the 2575 for the transfer station. But we are also joint owners of the transfer station. So I could see that there are opportunities for possibly doing let them bond it and we pay. I could see opportunities for we each have to come up with our share in one way or another by that time period. So maybe we have our own bonding and or warrant articles to raise it all in the first year. But we have to do this to remediate it is kind of there, so it's not like we can say, let's not do that in the budget or let's push it out. Any other thoughts on how that might work, Dana?
Well, if the town of Webster were gonna take a bond,
that would certainly be town meeting.
it would certainly be a town meeting issue. Also to be considered, it's expensive to take a bond. You have a lot of legal work that has to be done. And I guess you would need to work that out with Hopkinton as far as the agreement, as far as if that was the only area that you were covering was the cost of the PFAS, which would be a separate agreement in my view.
Just a comment this time. The issue of people throwing their recyclables into whatever bin and all of that, it's a huge issue over there. I've spent my time at the transfer station, witnessed all of that. I think that the best educational method to get people to pay attention to this issue, because it is a huge issue, is the fact that it's going to suddenly rear its head in terms of money. And I think it would be worthwhile, this is just maybe something we could do as a town at this town meeting coming up. Maybe, and I'd be willing to do this, stand up for a couple of minutes and sort of reinforce the idea that we have to take the elimination of our trash more seriously than we are and do our part. It's gonna cost the town a lot of money. Bonnie's not kidding on that, and Meredith wasn't kidding either. It's gonna be really expensive to do it right. But once it's done right and more efficiently, those costs are gonna drop. They will drop. So anyway, if you could sort of put that into the mix for town meeting, if you think that's a good idea.
I love the idea, and I'd love to let the Conservation Commission give us a 5-minute, like, this is how we need to handle our recycling.
Okay, I wasn't thinking that much, but okay.
Well, okay, a minute or two,
Okay.
whatever. You know, here's how you sort and how important it is.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We can get
do
the
that.
numbers for, and if you don't, this.
We can do that. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions on transfer station? Okay. So I will put that away and move on to our agenda. Obviously, we are all here. Did we have any announcements? Because they just kind of opened the meeting.
I just wanted to say that the office is closed on Thursday and Friday of this week.
Why?
We have very nice bosses that gave us both days off. We appreciate it.
All right, any further announcements?
Not from me.
Okay, so that moves us on. We had our appointment with the Hopkinton Select Board. That moves us on to old business, so the 2024 budget presentations.
So I think the first up is Chris
Okay? Great, so
for conservation. Thank you.
So, I'll give you a second to look over the vast budget presentation there.
Speak up, man. Please.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
do you want a
Okay.
mic to make it easier?
This is terrible. My voice is failing these days.
I can certainly give you the mic.
I can hear you.
Thank you. So. Okay, I'll speak more loudly, okay?
You can dance too if you really want.
Do you want me to sit someplace else?
I don't have a problem with it as long as they can hear you.
Can you hear me perfectly well down there? Okay, great. So, so the the administrative seems to never change. Some years we use all $500 of that if there are new members on the Conservation Commission that need to go to workshops and that kind of thing. So that didn't happen this year. So we used 250 of the money there for the dues to NHACC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I can do what I was hoping for.
Can you make that really big?
That's what I was trying to do.
It's a very small budget, you see.
One moment, I will get it bigger and then put it back over there. Anyway, carry on.
Get rid of those clouds. We want sun.
That would be transpo evaporation, Dee. Look at it that way.
Always wish.
Yeah. So this year, the 500 under administration, and then we're asking for a little bit more than we have in the past. Once again, we're going to rehire Bob Quinn to continue working on our natural resource inventory. Oh, perfect. So we had hoped to be able to complete the entire NRI in 1 year, and it didn't turn out to be possible because of his work schedule and because of the sort of the immensity of having to figure out what kind of wildlife we have and all the amphibians, and we have actually compiled a really impressive list of our natural resources. So we want to continue working with Bob Quinn. $500 we think can buy a pretty nice bench for the put-in area, and there would be a plaque on that because Betsy Janeway's money helped to make the purchase of that put-in area. Do you all know what I'm talking about, the put-in area? It's across from Cozy Pond Campground, and there's a very small patch of land that still offers access to the Blackwater River, and it's a really quiet spot to put canoes or kayaks in. And Betsy's Betsy's money helped to make that a possible purchase for the Conservation Commission. So we would like a plaque there to thank her for that. And then the signage that we would like to have for that piece of land, we'd like to have a proper sign that tells people that this is in fact a boat launch. And it's a, Town of Webster, the Janeway boat launch. We don't know what the words are gonna be yet, but a proper sign put in the ground properly so that people know that it's there to use. And that's it. That's what makes it up. We've had luck getting a couple of volunteers with very large chainsaws to help us clear really enormous trees that have come down in the mock forest. And we also had a volunteer to offer to, what is that called when you, brush hog. To brush hog the field that the boat launch is in. So that's gonna happen in the spring. So we're getting volunteers to help us with other work, but, so that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. A question, because it has been in the master plan and has come up for a few years now. The trail network that I know you folks work on maintaining volunteer basis, how is that coming and/or mapping of it?
The mapping of it is actually coming along really well. The people who are in charge of our easement boundary markings, they provided us with it's like a GIS thing that you can load onto your phone and actually walk a trail and have a map made of the person walking the trail, which is really cool. So we're putting all of those things into sort of a master map for the town of Webster.
Awesome.
Yes, and we're also working with Boscawen and Warner because they've done NRIs and also are working on mapping trails so that it all can be united and continuous. So that's pretty neat.
Very good.
That would be great.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody else out there with questions or comments?
I just wonder if putting boat launch by the road will indicate people thinking they can put a boat in that river, maybe a kayak or canoe launch or just public water access, or I don't know what the answer is. I just,
So
when I think of boat launch,
instead-
I was picturing something totally different than that, but.
Oh,
I can see your point, I can see somebody backing down there.
Yeah, be like, oh, the boat launch is here, and then they
With a
start
boat.
backing in.
oh yeah, somebody backing down would
Makes
be in
sense.
trouble.
Maybe just verbiage, but I think it's a great idea and it's a great spot, and thank you for
Yeah.
your work. Just
Where
In my head.
do people park?
Along the side of the road, there's pretty good visibility there. I don't expect huge crowds,
Yeah, right?
so
You never know.
what do you think, Emmett? Is it, if 3 or 4 cars are parked right along where the canoe and kayak launch would be?
It's gonna be daylight hours, cause not a
Yeah.
lot of folks go kayaking at night.
You hope.
and it's a wide part of the
Yeah,
road too.
yeah, I mean, I know it's a
It's not a
state
swale,
road, but I
but-
don't,
Great,
I
so,
can't imagine.
Is there room to put parking off street?
mm-mm. And you'd have to just, if you're the water and this is the hill and this is the road,
Yeah.
it would have to be right along that edge.
Yeah, I can picture the spot. I just
Yeah, it's right across the street, just
Yeah.
about from the
next to that
driveway
little red
going into
cabin
the
or whatever.
campground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes,
And the car can pull off to get completely off the tar right there.
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but probably
Yeah.
it's wide enough.
Yeah.
I think.
Check it out next time you're in the neighborhood.
All right, I'll bring
Yeah.
a big boat now.
Nice.
Do that.
Just thinking out loud, instead of just driving onto the shoulder/grass, but not wanting to have to go through the pain of trying to get state driveways and that sort of thing. Would we be allowed to, for example, widen the shoulder by putting some more crushed gravel down so that that would have less of an impact when cars
No.
go there? Okay.
It's a state road anyway, right?
Right.
We can't add gravel
No.
because we want to.
Okay.
I don't believe,
Just thinking out loud in
Don't
case we
wanna,
would be allowed to
but
put
I-
it next to the road instead of affecting the road, but.
Maybe they can accidentally dump a truck on their way by and it'll spread it over.
All right.
Nice thinking.
It would be nice if the state worked with us very nicely. But, all right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we have further budget presentations?
Yes, you do. The library is here to give their presentation.
Awesome.
And they look anxious to do it.
sit here, I guess.
Yes.
We're loud
I
enough.
wipe the glasses off.
I don't believe I have anything to show for that, so.
You will in a second, I think.
Well, but I don't have one to put up on the screen, so.
Oh.
Kind of low tech. Feel bad.
Very low tech. Actually. Sorry, you may go on. I'm just in the process of trying to make it so I can throw it up there for you.
Want me to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. We're simply, we've raised our budget. It was 54,260, and it is now
Too
57,
much different than what it was last year.
547.
A few little changes. Wish they added it up
the-
at the bottom.
We've actually cut down, we kind of rounded off some stuff, but really the only real increases are our programming, which is all the stuff that we do, like, for example, the library had our monthly movie, and the other stuff that the librarian runs in the summer for the kids. Anyway, that went up from 240 to 1,300 because we're just doing a lot more stuff, and thanks. The other thing, and the only other things we did was we raised the salary, and we also have as you may know, we have an assistant librarian, and so she's going up from $15 an hour to $15.75. So, but, and of course the librarian gets a raise also. But, we're only talking about another $3,200.
So, question on here, the allocation. What exactly is that referencing?
Oh, that's what the town pays the library.
Okay, so
So-
the top is kind of what the overall is, and then
Right,
allocation
right.
is
'Cause
after your investments?
Yes, because we have the 3% that comes out of our, it's just our savings. And, so we get like around $400 a month, roughly. And, so anyway, that's the $5,040 that we get. And so, I will make sure that Wendy remembers that we do not get the 59,300. We only get the 54,260. Because we had that happen 1 year, and that really screwed up everything. Because I didn't notice it, that we were getting more than we should have. So anyway.
Seeing the utilities, what
It's just
what
the phone-
utilities
it's-
do you actually pay?
It's the phone bill and the internet. And that all comes from TDS.
Oh, phone bill and what?
Internet.
Okay. And
We have internet in this building. Do we have internet? We must have. Do they,
Yeah,
and they have to
so-
pay something special for
so
their internet?
the way that internet works right now, or let me back up, the way that connections work right now, the public safety building has their own phone and internet. Town hall has their own account for phone and account for internet. And then the library has their own phone and internet.
So they can't be put together to save us any money?
That's one of the things I would like to work on when I have free time to make it happen. But I haven't been able to make the free time to
Okay.
try to make that happen.
Well, you're better at it than I am.
The somewhat challenge there is that the security practices and what needs to be kept aside on the two networks are very
Yeah.
different. And so we could save, for example, the utility money by having them join with our plan and connection, but we would also then have to pay for more advanced firewalling and networking gear to account for it. In theory, that's more of a like once every 5 to 10 years thing instead of an every year, so it should save, but I haven't been able to run all of those numbers and come up with the plan to do it yet.
Well, I know you can do that.
I
Not
would love
me,
to.
that's not my stuff.
So hopefully at some point in the future, you'll see that.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, so there's the overall overview for that.
So, any other
Plan,
questions?
sir.
Any other questions from anybody else? Can you briefly plug your various services besides just showing up to the library? Because I know you do a lot of other things, just to make sure everyone is aware of them.
Our chair tell you what
What
we
he
do.
does?
No. Well, sure.
I mean, I just told you that, we have the monthly movie.
Right.
Right, but go ahead.
But I know you've also got various
Right.
online services and other things that the library runs and helps out with, so.
Right, we have the state library system that we use.
You have to speak up,
Sorry.
please.
We use the state library system for ebooks, and we also have Hoopla, which is another service, and that has books, magazines, movies, TV shows, music, you name it, it's there. And it's very easy to use. Catherine has the summer reading program that she runs, and it was really, really popular this summer. I mean, the whole room in there was loaded with kids, and a lot of parents came too, which is really nice.
And the Swan Lake.
And then at the end of this summer session, she had Swan Lake come and do a presentation on, and they bring animals with them, which is really, really good too. And then in the fall with the Conservation Commission, we had a talk about ticks. And that was very scary, actually.
Yay.
If you haven't heard this woman talk, and she's had Lyme disease for decades. And it's just really makes you think about when you go out in the woods or just out in the lawn.
Well, it's not fun.
No? So Catherine is an excellent librarian. She's a real benefit to this town, and she's been a librarian for many, many years, and we hope she'll be the librarian for many more years too.
Book group.
Yeah. And we also have a book group that meets monthly that Catherine runs. So she keeps busy, we keep busy.
Thank you very much. And hopefully some people find some new interest and things to check out.
Well, we have 2 new people in town. We're gonna convince them to get library cards.
I have a question. The new programs that you mentioned, I can see, are they online? Will they be posted online? So we can, are they for children or are they for adults or
I
are
mean,
they
like
mixed programs?
Most of them are live, but they're all.
To access?
Oh, to find out about them?
Found out, yes?
Yeah, Catherine has on the town website.
Okay.
There's library underneath it, and if you go there, everything is listed.
Okay.
You could actually sign up too to get
Yeah.
Yes,
notifications.
I would be interested, yes.
Yeah, so if
I
you-
forget how I did it, otherwise
Yeah, if you
I
go to
would
our
tell
town's
you.
website,
Yeah.
you can create an account on our town's website and say all the things that you're interested in getting notifications for, be it our select board meetings, public hearings, library, etc.
And you'll get it in your email. It'll just pop up in your
Yeah.
email.
Thank you very much, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for or by the library? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Emmett is here, and I guess, do you want to start with the fire department, Emmett?
Sure.
And I
Sure,
have-
you were gonna
I
copy
do.
me off what I needed.
Yeah, both of these are for you.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
That's all right. And the new building is beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, you use it every day. Yeah.
That's an indoor arena?
Yeah.
I know.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So it appears that we now have this in front of us, so go for it, Emmett.
So on the fire part of it, on the stipends and, the officers' stipends and the members' stipends, I went up 3% on to each of them. And then the dispatch service went up this year. So, we went up 1% on that to equal that out. And the only other thing I went up on, which is 10 grand in there for truck maintenance. And it went up 20% on that this year because engine 2 will be, the tires are fine, but after 7 years, needs new tires, so next year I'm gonna have to buy tires for that. Then the rest is all as it was. Any questions on that?
So a few of these things, like for example, the radios and pagers and the air pack maintenance, et cetera, are obviously continuing costs that we're gonna expect all the time.
Yep.
How are those costs going, and are we expecting them to be going up like other things, or is it a contracted period and then we'll expect it to go up? Like, how is that set up right now?
Well, I tried to hold it the best I could. I mean, it's always nice to add more, to buy more, but, I mean, we are a small town. I mean, the bunker gear, I gotta buy a new set of bunker gear, and we have $174 left in that line, but I'll take that out of capital reserve. We just had a member that went through the recruit school at the academy, was at a 6-week class. More,
it's like a 10-week.
10
12
weeks, so he got his certification to level 1 and 2.
Oh, awesome.
All in one, and that was paid for through the school, the program that Merrimack Valley School District has. They talked to the young man last night, a week ago, last Wednesday night, to see if he paid it out of pocket or what, so we could work with him a little bit, because he's a young man just getting started, and he said that the school, I don't know, some sort of grant or.
That's
there's a lot
nice,
of
so they
grants
have a
going on in the
program at
state
the
with
school
that.
to get them
Yeah,
interested? That's
so,
great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
People get a free paramedic school right now.
Hey, I'm sorry,
EMTs.
what?
Free paramedic school right now. We have a person in Hooksett.
Wow.
10 grand paid by the
Yeah.
state. Just, there's a lot of fundage going on for EMS and fire.
And-
Good.
But,
Anything we can
About
tap into,
time.
the better.
I
Good,
mean,
thanks.
like we could go down a lot of the training, which we didn't have a lot of people that did the EMT class, we did it whatevers, but the last few years, Susan and I have been paying for that out of Cindel's scholarship stuff. So it hasn't been affected into our budget. Like the forest fire wages, the last couple of years, we really haven't
No, it's been what?
done a whole lot, but.
What is kind of the average that's spent on training regardless of source of funding?
I'd have to go back. It all varies on if you get a member or two that were on a different department or already trained somewhere else, it doesn't cost you anything, but you send somebody. The Fire 1 and the Fire 2 class right now, the state has that down. That's real reasonable. I mean, that's like a couple of $100, right?
Yeah, the commission subsidizes the
And,
fire commission for the state.
But the
So it's really
EMT
cost
classes, they're up to $1,500 a class, but.
So would it be reasonable to suggest then that because this is a medical training line, that should probably be 3,000 instead of 2,000 to be able to handle two people being trained, whether or not they, thank you for making it so that the town doesn't have to, but does that seem like a reasonable way to have the budget set up?
Well, the other thing
going
that they can
forward?
do too, if they want, is bring in instructors too and do an EMT class for continuing education, which that's also in there. I don't know, is that on a different line or so?
You know, they have medical training on that, and then we have our, other training.
Okay. So between the two trainings, even without outside funding?
Yeah,
it's
no,
reasonable.
I think for the most part right now, I mean, yeah, background checks.
You don't have that on the screen, do you?
Community.
No,
Well, no, just.
Oh, I don't
Go ahead and-
No, it's all good, I'm right
Snap
here.
this.
But like when we send the trucks over to get the oil changed and stuff, and I mean, they're at $165 an hour over there now?
Wow.
Adds up quick.
Yeah.
Do you have a full complement of firefighters and EMTs, basically?
What?
You got enough firefighters for Webster?
We do on the roster, but where everybody works out of town.
Yeah,
and,
same old story.
And during the day, it's hit or miss.
Yeah. Oh, you can't help that.
No,
I mean,
you
that's-
can't, but, the roster's all full of, qualified people, but they all have to get up and go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean,
I understand that.
and when the bell rings at 5 and people are getting ready to go to work, but.
Yeah, it's tough.
The mutual aid, the surrounding towns,
They all have the same problems.
right, but we make it work.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, that's great.
Would you see anything on Lacken Road
Hard to tell. 'Cause
without going crazy?
Is pump testing going up
What
next
is
year? I didn't see that very clear.
He didn't say anything.
Usually tends to go up like $50 an hour, but that's not.
No, he's been holding his own, but we are gonna have another, we won't have to, we have to pump test that, but we won't have to pump test that the first year.
Depends when it comes in, but you should get it on a rotation.
Yeah. Yeah, pump, yeah, that pack maintenance, they come out once a year and do that.
So based on the amount that cost, is that, I mean, we've got more than half of that remaining. Does it need to be that high?
What's
if they're
that?
coming out once a year?
What are you looking at?
The air pack maintenance?
They
It looks
haven't
like
been
it-
out, they come out the first of December to, every year they go through, to make that, and they
So that's
haven't been
probably a
out
broken
yet.
part or piece that you're seeing that small amount on.
Okay,
If
so
they
that would've
repair
been like a
pack, that's
repair
still came out
of
of
it,
pack,
not
but the
the
actual
actual
service to them, which
inspection.
happens in December, didn't happen yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No worries.
In the packs, what are they now? What are they, 4 years old? So really, they're still in,
You got 15 years out of them, but the
Yeah.
capital reserve, I know we upped that a few years back.
Yeah,
to
we
make that
did.
work.
in the IM respondent, haven't seen anything about that going up.
So I see that equipment basically has not been used this year. What typically is that covering? And what are you expecting to use it for next year?
Equipment?
Yeah.
I see equipment and maintenance repair.
Because equipment is.
Okay, right there,
434.
the equipment. So that's nozzles, which we're gonna order a couple of nozzles, and we need to think about next June, hopefully we'll have a brand new truck landing here that's not gonna have a foot of hose on it, or no nozzles, or no equipment, or anything, so, that's what I was going to talk to you folks about, because I have that in there, but I know the budget, we're gone over on, and I was told not to spend any more than I needed to between Dana and I. He said to keep things to the minimum unless it was an emergency, so.
Yeah, we're really hoping for taxes soon, because cash flow, but.
So, but that's what I was gonna use that line in.
Okay. Thank you.
2,500.
You used up quick.
Yeah. Ben did mention the other day at the officers meeting, he asked me, to look into a couple of nozzles, and, I told him to go ahead and do that and get a price for me for that. Yeah, $2,500 when you start buying, yeah.
So I also noticed that office supplies and then community relations have almost nothing that has been spent. And then nothing spent.
Community relations, we did go to the school. I guess you went with them and Ben and a few of them. And we used up a bunch of the stuff that we had in inventory, so we didn't buy any of that this year. And they gonna buy some this year to have it for next year. So that's in the plan. They've already asked me about that. I told them that was fine. Office supplies, we just did get a couple of boxes of paper and some cartridges for the printer.
Okay, so that's not reflected in this yet, then?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay.
It isn't
You don't
yet.
think so?
Not yet.
Okay.
That makes sense then, thank you.
Yeah, bunker gear and the pump training, the pump testing. The bill is on my desk for that, so that hasn't been passed in, so that will suck that up. Maintenance, truck maintenance is $3,529 left in that. Engine 2 went over and had the air conditioning pump replaced on that, and I haven't got the bill yet for that. Engine 3 has to go back over. The float in the fuel tank isn't working, so that means the fuel gauge isn't working, so it's the float when they took it apart, but they had to order the float. So that's labor intense, because you gotta take the whole tank down, so that's gonna get sucked up pretty good before we're done. And they have to come out yet and service the pumps. After the pump test, which happened a month ago, and then the one that didn't make it, Rob took that to Bosquen and met with them last week, so that truck is finished now, engine 2. So they'll come out and service the pump, change the 80-90 gear oil in the pumps, and check the seals, and do that. So, yeah, that line's gonna get used up.
Regarding the new fire truck that we're expecting to get, you mentioned, for example, needing to use the equipment for hoses and nozzles. How should we be looking at the radio and pager line towards properly equipping that truck? Is it coming with them? Is it coming out of the
No, it won't have a
vehicle, or is that
radio.
already accounted for here?
No, there's, what, $5,000?
There's a lot of money if we like completely outfit that.
No, but I mean, just for the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So does that mean that the $4,000 that's been in and is still proposed is not actually enough for radios?
No, because I have to order 2 new pages, if not 3, and they're $500 a piece that's gonna come out of that radio and,
Right, but
pager.
going forward, it sounds like you just said that it would need 5,000 towards the new.
Radio next year.
Okay,
well, in
so that
June.
probably needs to go up then from the 4,000 that's sitting in front of us as proposed. Or is that expecting to come out of out of the fund instead?
Hadn't talked to you about that yet.
What, beyond the radios and the basic gear like the hoses and nozzles?
Well, there's ladder,
What-
there's a
okay.
roof ladder, there's a 24-foot extension ladder, there's an attic ladder.
So where are we expecting all of these funds to come from? Are those coming out of the vehicle fund as the
Well, you
fire engine
can,
itself has, or are you expecting some of those to come out of budget items?
wherever we can get it from. Because you can't take it, you can't buy equipment out of the truck fund, I don't believe, right, Dana?
I think
If
you
it came with
can
the truck,
get it.
yeah.
If it came with a truck,
I think we'd be hard pressed now to buy it after the fact. maybe.
I mean, if it's part, I mean, they do that with the police cruisers. So I think that, and I think, Emmett, one question I had for you on the truck, do you think that the price that we agreed to is gonna hold firm? I know, yeah. Which is why I'm a little worried about the trust fund. If it's, you know.
I mean, keep in mind, this stuff isn't, obviously, the fire, so anything marked fire service is like 3 times the normal amount, no different than those ladders. You're probably talking $1,500 a piece for the ladders. Hose, it's at least a couple $100 per length. And I don't know how many thousand feet are on that truck, I can't remember. With the cross lays in the back, you're probably talking 3,000 or 4,000 feet.
well, you're talking 1,000 feet of 4-inch. And then you're gonna talk 3 cross lengths, so there's 2, 4, 6, 600 feet of inch
So
and
a couple
3/4.
thousand probably.
So can you put together a list of what and how much we're gonna need to fully finish equipping the truck so we'll be
Yeah.
able to use it?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to account for that somewhere.
Correct.
And
That-
then we can look at where and how that might happen.
We'll have about $650,000 at the end of this year in the trust fund.
Yep. That's
Of
good.
which I believe the agreement for the truck was something like.
444.
444,000.
Oh, okay.
So if that holds, it's a little more cheerful than.
Then we'll have more there that can be used to outfit.
And
Right,
maybe-
I'll pull
and
up-
Maybe 24, you'll add some more, but.
Yeah.
I'll pull up all the information there when we put this together and see what's coming with that. And I'll give Chris a call tomorrow. And then I'll make a list of what we need and what it's gonna cost and what we can rob off, and we can rob some stuff off and other stuff to,
Sounds good.
Don't forget that other ambulance too.
What was that?
Don't forget the other ambulance too, right, isn't that 50?
that should be, there should be plenty in there.
You're just talking that account, I was just, that's another, and that's if it needs nothing.
You're killing me.
Or he's a bearer of bad news, but you're always gonna plan for the worst and hope for the best.
I think we're fine with that.
Yeah, that was a good
He's
CIP
at least smiling when he
presentation.
says it.
He's very cheerful.
Right, we've been the CIP with
we discussed
the folks. We've been working.
But if they need to be accounting for all this additional that would be added on to equip it to be ready to go.
Correct.
Then that's something else we would need to either account for in the budget or bring back to the CIP, is you gotta account for more in here when you make your recommendation.
I
So-
was, oh, so, sorry, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a stupid question. Do we get any money from the government of any kind, state or feds or anything, for any of our fire equipment or ambulance or anything?
No, that Russell and I worked on a couple of them back earlier, and then,
I'm working on a new idea too.
What?
I'm working on something new.
You're still working on stuff?
I'm working
Well,
on
good
something
man.
new.
and
Okay,
I found a
guys.
grant class to send Dana to, but
I'm not sure if they're gonna have that, Emmett. I don't know if they have enough people that, you know, because they have to have enough people
Yeah.
to do it, but I'll go to it if it's, and that would be very helpful. I know Russ is really good at looking for grants, and a lot of them don't apply to us.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
too small.
Yeah.
you know, I had another fire department email me about taking a grant class, and I figured that Dana would be the man for it, because he was the
I'm not so sure
pencil
about that. but-
pusher.
Well, that's his job, right?
But it would, I think it'd be a good class to take, so I hope it happens.
So I'll get a list of everything that we need and a ballpark figure.
That'll be good.
Is this truck replacing one, or are we adding to it? And I may have been told that, but I don't remember.
No, my plan is, it's a tanker. It's a 3,000 gallon tanker on 10 wheels with a 1,500 gallon front mount pump. And the tanker that we have now is an 1,800 gallon tanker, and 1,000 gallon front mount pump. But to get rid of it, I'd like to keep it until it starts costing money, because it's a good forestry piece to get off the road, and in the spring of the year, it's a little lighter, and in my eyes, the first engine in, if it doesn't have and you bring your tanker, and you got Concord and Warner and Tookie coming, but there's 15 minutes, and the water's the key to the game. So it is replacing the tanker that we have now, but for what it cost us to keep the old one, because I mean, you get a little something out of it, but not enough to.
So we have room in the firehouse to put it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. We're gonna leave the police cruiser outside and use their bay.
Oh, you didn't know the next budget was the new firehouse.
I don't think so. I think that firehouse is gonna last a while.
So, one of the things that is on here is, of course, the increases to the stipends. I know we've had somewhat of a discussion before on how we should set up dealing with stipends across all of our different positions, and looking towards whether there should be set percentages set towards cost of living increases, et cetera. Have you had any further thoughts on that, and how we can kind of policy and make things even?
I have thought about that.
So that's supposed to be done
It's,
next year, but I put that out.
And I've checked with other towns what they do about stipends, and I have to tell you, for the most part, they do the same thing we do.
What are you gonna do?
I think that it's something that we need a discussion on, what makes sense.
Yeah.
Emmett and I talked about what the percentage would be for these stipends, and we just used 3% because that goes with the, I can't even think what it's
Average.
called, but what the increase was this year. And we have several stipends, of which there's one in particular that I don't really think is a stipend. I think it's more of a salary. But it would be good to have something to base increases on, rather than just pull figures out of the air.
Good idea.
You know, which, I wish it was my idea, but it really was the board's. But, so we'll work on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions for fire? All right. Do we have further budget presentations?
Yeah, oh, yes. Now we have the highway budget. And Emmett and I did these today, so that's why you're getting them at this point in time.
And as part of this and also CIP funding, where are we with getting, I know we had a presentation from the survey, the road survey. Where are we with getting a report from them?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, thank you. So, I guess I'll snap this one too. Or was this in our?
It wasn't, no, no. Emmett and I just did it today.
Finished it today.
Well, we
We've been
finished it
working
today.
on it for a year.
Right, right. We argued about it for a couple months.
You
but
did.
Here we are.
The only arguing there was when are you coming to do this?
All right, so go right ahead while I get this on the screen for people.
So the highway equipment, I went up 3%, and the labor, I went up 9%. Supplies and parts, which a lot of that had to do with cutting edges, the cost of them have gone. So, Dana came up with 37%. So he'll have to explain that.
Yeah, the percentages really look skewed, but it's really an increase of $2,700. But your last cutting edge bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, where you have the road salt, gravel, winter sand, and calcium chloride went up, what was it 40 cents, 45 cents a gallon? It went from 99 cents a gallon to 140, 139, 149 a gallon, so that jumped up. And the gravel, the winter sand stayed. And the salt, this winter we're gonna pay $76 and change. It's not much different than last year, but it's $20 more than it was 2 years ago. Yeah, $76.90 a ton. So we went up in that line by 12%.
I'd like to remind the board that $72,000 is the block grant. that does offset some of this budget.
Correct.
Well, roughly 70 to 75, depending on what the state feels like that year.
I think I said 72, but yeah. I'm-
And that's part of the reason of making sure that it's more just a budget instead of, you see the HWBG that used to be a separate section that was highway block grant, because it didn't make sense for us to be saying, well, I guess we're not gonna need as much this year, just because the state didn't give us as much. So that was the kind of reasoning to rolling it into just a normal budget, and all of it into the budget lines, which we did that change last year. Obviously, things have gone up. The highway equipment, we used a lot more this year than we had budgeted, but you're only going up 3% for next year from what was budgeted. Can you kind of describe that and what the thinking is to?
On the 3%, on the
Yeah, how
increase
you
of the
get to that
3%,
number. Yeah.
it's just the cost of doing business.
We had, if you remember, we had the July 16th weather event. And I think we figured out that out of this budget this year, we spent over $40,000.
No, we figured it up today, it was a little over 50 grand.
Okay, 50.
Out of this budget that went to Roby
Which
Road.
obviously
Okay.
impacted the budget. And while we'd like to budget for future incidents, we really can't do that.
Okay, so the reasoning that it was over was mostly because of.
Right, we had all those
Okay.
expenses that
Flooding.
Emmett wasn't expecting.
Yeah, we replaced
Yeah.
1,480 feet.
Well, because I had thought that most of that came out of the funds as
Much of
opposed
it
to the
did.
budget, so.
Much of it did.
That's good, okay. That makes sense as to why it's only a 3% increase then, instead of.
Correct.
Well, we were.
Because
way
if we
over.
took that 52,000 that came out of this budget out of Roby Road and put it back in, I wouldn't be in the red.
Perfect. Regarding the labor line, you still have some remaining, though not a whole lot, which I fully expect you'll end up using, especially with even a partial storm. But what is driving the 9% increase as opposed to most are increasing around 3%?
Well, you just look at what your librarian just did, and I talked to the police chief, and he's at 9% to keep his people going, and.
Have they presented theirs yet? Has police presented theirs yet?
Yep, to the first Monday of the
Might have asked
two
about
nights,
it, yes.
a meeting ago.
Oh,
And
yeah, and that was to account for a larger expected salary for a new hire as compared to what we'd had. Okay.
people want good service, they want good people. City of Concord right now is looking for 10 snowplow drivers. The state of New Hampshire, it was on Channel 9 the other morning, is looking for 250 people to plow snow this winter.
Wow.
The town of Samonton has a truck sitting up there, a hired truck, a friend of Russell's, and it gets $125 an hour, and it gets paid 10 hours a week just sitting there if it doesn't even move.
Oh, my God.
Any further questions or comments?
No.
Just, it'd be neat if you could work for $10 an hour, but days are over.
We know
Well, yeah,
that's not true.
it just seemed that like, because I know that a lot of your highway equipment is a rental, so a time-based, much like labor. So with that going up 3%, it seemed to not quite match the labor. So is all of that labor percent increase needed to account for using the highway equipment for 3% more? Or does there need to be more in highway equipment as well to account for it? Like, how is that balance? How does it match out? It's not like we shouldn't be paying, it's how does it actually?
No, and
balance
I
out?
understand that, you folks are good people. Everybody is in town, but we just figured that on the labor that we used and the increase in our insurance and the increase in just the everyday business. And it's.
Okay.
Right, Susan and Dana and I worked on this, and
Well, part of that was also to, if you need to attract someone to come work for you, you need to pay them the going rate.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
not gonna hire somebody for $20 an
So
hour.
in a sense, I mean, we're all familiar with the situation the police department's in.
Mhm.
Emmett's in a very similar, and Marlo, I'm sure, is as well.
No, it's hard to find good people.
Well, somebody said the new 30 is, or the new 20 is 30.
Yeah,
It's a good $10 more an hour for almost everything.
yeah.
Wow. I mean, people-wise.
No, it's true.
So that
It's-
was one thought, I think, that we had.
It's,
Okay.
I don't know how some of them people are paying what they're paying an hour.
They get less employees, so they can spread it out better, that's it. Unfortunately.
What was that?
So they have less employees, that's the only way that a lot of these communities are even
That's
making that
true,
work.
yeah,
is
right.
They can't hire them, so they're paying the ones they have a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I look forward to, once we have the report from the study, going back and revisiting a little bit.
Yeah, and another thing that I talked to Russell and the young man about, and I don't know if you were here then or not, but every year they do a car count over the road, take a road and do a car count study. And I just know from traveling the roads every day and
we asked him to put the ones
amount
that
of,
he had road
so in the
counts
last
in the
10
report.
years, they're gonna, you know, I mean, what was it? Was it Steve or was it the police chief before when we did Bash and Hollow Road and they had the car counter over there with, and it only counted one way. Was that 500 cars in 2 days? It was stupid amount of cars. It was like, is that thing working? Was it?
I think so.
You remember that?
Yep, before you fix that swale,
Yeah,
yep.
on that corner. You were involved with that.
Should have had them throw a quarter in every time I went by.
No, but the traffic, and you guys must see it, I mean, the traffic, it's.
Yeah, we've been moving around on the different roads when they ask to do the counts each time. I know we've taken into account what you and Steve have both said, and there've been one or two where we've been like, that hasn't happened in a while, or we should do this again because our bridge is about to be replaced, et cetera. So they hopefully have some decent numbers for a lot of the roads, even though not all of them. But we did ask them to include those in the reports for, what priorities they think should be there. But my point in that is that when they come back with their numbers, knowing that that is surface preservation only for the most part, I want to look at how much makes sense to be putting into the preservation fund versus just having in the budget and using. I want to kind of keep the top end of it staying in the fund so that anything we don't think we use would go in the fund to be used later as an emergency source, for example, when we have these storms next time. But the majority of I think should probably sit in the budget to be able to, because it's going to be used all the time anyway as an operating budget. So I think that's the way that I'm hoping to be able to frame it and and put it in with appropriate numbers for you. But not reducing anything, but making sure that like if the recommendation and or agreement is we should have X amount, that maybe 80% of it is in the budget and 20% or 25% or whatever is in the fund, so that the fund is mostly in case we need it. So.
Is there a trust fund in the highway? I can't remember.
So there's nothing in the operating budget,
Yeah.
but we do have two different funds.
Revolving trust.
One is mainly for preservation and one is for construction.
No,
I believe one's a CRF
You're
and one's an
talking about a
ETF.
rainy day fund?
Yeah, kind of like the fire department for the forest fire. If we have a big brush fire, there's a trust fund, revolving trust fund for that. I think there's $2,000 in there or something.
Yeah, we don't
I
have
think that's
any,
what you're
we don't
talking
have
about.
any sort of rainy day fund. I'd asked Dana to look into different ways that we could do that. And probably the most sensible way to do it is we have the road preservation fund. Let's just make sure that it keeps X amount in it that we think might be needed for that. So if we overfund that for the next couple years, that should bring us back into, we've got some in case something happens. And so that's kind of the thinking. We'll see how everybody decides that that should be the case or not, especially once we get all of our numbers back. But any other questions or comments for roads?
Do you have comments, sir?
No,
No.
no.
Anything from our public? All right. Thank you very much then.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for all you guys do.
trying to keep you busy and keep our roads great. So thank
But
you for being a
the
part of
young man did
that.
make a good comment, kind of made me feel good there the other day. He said that he traveled all the roads in town, and he says, yes, they do need some work, but he said your roads are in darn good shape compared to a lot of places, so,
That's good.
I think we'll get a lot of good information from his
Yeah,
report.
yeah.
I was quite impressed with what he had
Yeah.
so far, yeah.
Okay, do we have
Oh,
further
yes.
budgets?
Oh, it's me.
And it's
I'm
gonna
up.
be Russ.
Oh,
and-
no.
Dana,
He's gonna
those
break the
figures
bank
were-
now.
But that's okay, so the figures.
Now, what's
are zero.
green mean? Go?
Well, Russ and I
Figures
weren't
on it.
speaking today, so he didn't give me his figures. He's gonna give them to me.
Oh. Who
They're
decided
not
that
that
this morning?
It's not,
All
it's
right.
not a huge amount,
This is planning and zoning.
so don't worry about it.
Planning and
So-
zoning budget.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for those who know, the legal enforcement line was overdrawn by $87.50 this year. And that was because of a court case that
Thank you for
happened
coming.
very early in the year. That kind of wiped the entire account. So one of the biggest expenses that comes out of this is the regional commission dues, which I don't have the exact number for that yet this year, for next year. So, but that's usually around 2,500, Dana?
About that, yeah.
It's about that, and I usually like to keep around $1,500 to $2,000 for the legal line, just for the planning board to use. So I was thinking of upping the line for 4,500, because I'm assuming the commission dues are gonna go up a little bit this year, because everything's going up, and to keep an account for that. I wanna keep the workshops the same, because, once again, the planning board is still looking for members. We're gonna be losing one of our alternate members this year, because one of our members is retiring from the board. So we're still actively looking for members, and I kind of want to keep that up, just in case we get somebody else who wants to go to do more workshops or classes. Newspaper notices, that last year they changed the law so that we no longer had to post planning board notices. So it was kind of the first year that I was tackling with that. So we brought it down to 600, and as you can see, we've used about $832 of that, so about 200 over. So I'm suggesting that we bring that up to 800 to account for that, because we usually do about 3 to 5 ZBA cases a year. I think 800 will pretty much cover it, and it is offset if we don't use it. And for the most part, I just want to keep the rest the same for publications and supplies. Because once again, it all depends on what the planning board decides to do.
Thank you. All
Those
right.
are my figures.
Any questions or comments? I think that sounds reasonable and prudent. Thank you very much.
Wow. Rush, you should write that down. Did you hear what he just said?
What?
Reasonable and prudent.
Reasonable and prudent. I mean, I thought it was reasonable numbers.
You know, don't let it go to his head.
At least they're not irrational numbers, because then our budget would be all.
Well, I am gonna, I put feelers out to see what the commission dues are. I wanna know what they're expecting those to be for next year. Depending on that, that really determines what's the top line, because that's the biggest expense.
And you never know with your legal budget what is.
Correct. Which is something I discussed with Dave earlier. If anything,
Who
if I
does?
wanted to plan around legal budget, I'd wanna put more in the legal trust fund, because that's
Yeah,
our,
legal.
oh crap button, we're getting sued.
Mhm.
And I would rather have it there, because then we don't lose it, if it doesn't get spent. All right, Dave's turn.
Brenda was gonna be here tonight, but since she's not, you're stuck with me.
Aw.
And this is the cemetery. You can tell me, just to get this done, because I know Dave's here.
Yeah,
You didn't
maybe-
happen to print mine either, I figured.
What's that?
The
What was that?
emergency management one, you didn't happen to print mine, or,
Your emergency management?
there's no change, but.
You know, I didn't, but that's great. Maybe you could present that to the board.
Status quo.
Keep on keeping on.
So no changes in that?
No change.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So this is Brenda's cemetery.
I gave him a thumbs up.
She is asking for an increase in supplies and repairs. And that's for a fence at Riverdale Cemetery.
That's
Do you
the
want
only
to take trees down too this year?
Well, that's another one.
Oh, that's a different
Yeah.
budget, okay.
Yeah, I get mixed up too, which tree.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
He's happy with
any
that one
questions,
too.
because I can't answer them.
No.
Well, I don't have a way to ask them about, like, you know, where exactly, you know, any details, because.
Well, I'm sure if you write your questions
sure
down,
it's
we can
fine.
get you answers.
So the next one is Brenda's, is the park.
They generally avoid trying to spend money, so.
Well, that's right, you know, when you think about fixing the
And
fence,
it's like
another
1,500 bucks,
$1,500.
so that's not much for a fence.
No. Not
so-
much to tie your shoes.
This budget, she has upped the park maintenance to include a few trees that need to be taken out of Pearson Park.
Now, I have a question. With all the loggers around, don't we have a volunteer logger to take those trees down and just for the wood?
Well, the wood is worth nothing.
What was that? The wood's
Yeah.
worth nothing?
The wood's worth
And the
nothing because the
liability
trees
and the-
are dead, and I took a couple of trees down there for Brenda. But with the bucket truck, it all comes down. When you cut one of them great big trees and they got branches on them this big, and they break off this and they drive right into the ground, and then you gotta, it's almost, yeah, it costs you as much to landscape to get that thing cleaned up than it does to
Cut it
just
down.
have the bucket truck come in and do it.
Really?
And that, it's not cheap.
No.
No.
I just wondered where all the volunteers were. Not
Well, did
anymore.
go out to get a few prices, and I had recommended the gentleman that we had used for the tree out and back here.
Which one was that, Eric Gay?
No, that was
Lee-
Lee's
Lee
Tree
Trees?
Service,
Yeah.
and we were his last job before he retired. So I don't know what that tells
He's,
me.
really?
he did
Push
that
him
on
over the
Impressed,
edge.
he still, he hasn't told me to take his ad off my papers.
Really? Well, that's what
Yeah.
I told Brenda, yeah.
Just couldn't take
Wow,
us, he
was
couldn't
that bad
take
of a
you,
job?
that's the
You were
I
problem.
guess it was me again.
Remember
Maybe he
that other
underbid
guy?
it too much, yeah. Anyway. And I have another tree out there I probably should look at too.
Don't do that to the gutter cleaner guy, because
Oh, the gutter cleaner guy, that guy is a saint.
That is a second.
Who was that?
No, not that,
Who's the say?
not that it's a very large dollar change, but she's got the wages up 33%. Is that to account for more that she's planning to do?
Well, I wish
or-
you were here to explain that, because I honestly don't know what the answer is to that.
Okay.
Why don't we just wait?
So we can, that is a great question,
Yeah, it's a lot of
of one
input.
I don't have
Okay.
an answer to.
Yeah, because we had remaining budget, and that's a steep percentage increase, unless there's like, yeah, I want to do X project that's gonna.
Well, that's what we
be
don't
more.
know, and that would be good to
So,
know.
and that would be nice to know to tell people. All right.
So I'm sorry, I meant to ask Marty to stay and I forgot. The Energy Committee, their budget was $500. Should I wait for Marty to?
I don't think we used it anyway.
I think I can cover that. There's basically an in case we need to do something of like 25 to 50 bucks for like if we have time or volunteers to do a sign or something like that.
And you had a fee for
and
membership, yeah.
And then we have membership into Clean Energy New Hampshire, which also puts on the conference. And so we get, I think it's somewhere around 300 or 350 or something like that for the membership. And if we don't have the membership, it's like 150 bucks for tickets to the conference that usually 2 people go to each year. So it's about the same.
It was $250.
But yeah, so that's in the nutshell what the Energy Committee uses the budget for. Those couple items, and usually it's only the membership that is used.
So is 500 sufficient?
I would expect 500 to be more than enough, yes. And that was kind of the placeholder to be able to make sure we can do that and handle additional outreach or printing something if we needed to, et cetera. Fortunately, for some of the education portions for community power, that we were expecting we might have to pay for some of that. That is being handled by the Community Power Coalition. And so those fees are not things that the Energy Committee needs to address. But as memberships and stuff continue to rise, I think it's a reasonable way to just leave it there, and we'll probably get some of it back at the end of the year, but.
The last budget I have is general government buildings, and you had seen part of this before, but I did get the public safety building figure today. So that is the proposed general government buildings.
Thank you.
The top lines, of course, are the town office, the ones with the 01, and then when you get into 02s, it's the public safety building, and then we combine the telephone bill, the postage, and the electrical cost. And you'll notice we did bump, I think maybe we spoke about that last time, we bumped the electricity down because of the array.
So that's working real good now for us, huh?
It is.
Good, awesome.
Yeah, so one of
It has been interesting, but yes, I think it is finally, yeah.
One of the things that's interesting in this, and you're gonna see it in the budget here, we don't normally show or talk about revenues all that much at the budget hearings and the town meeting. The array has in the past been generating checks that come as revenue towards the town. And so the electricity it produced, you know, every month, every quarter, et cetera, we would get checks. Now, after much consternation and rigmarole, it is being done much more like the average person's net metering at home, where that gets seen as an offset to our bill, so we don't have to pay as much for the bill, but we don't have the revenue anymore from it. So that's why the budget side of it that most people consider can go down. The overall cost of doing business with the offset from that plus the amount that we pay doesn't really change, but the budget line item will go down. And so that's how this is reflected here, as per Dana's calculations.
What's really been nice is that the public safety building, which is, the whole bill's been offset for several months now, as well as this building.
Oh, okay.
I think the salt shed last month, I had to pay $5.13, and the flagpole, it was like, like $1.88 or something like that.
Right, now, after the big storm tomorrow,
No big storm tomorrow.
all rain. I hope. Turn them outside lights on.
Okay. Do we have anything else there?
I think you've heard most of the budgets, with the exception, I think we have personnel that needs to be done. And I'm thinking of the next meeting. And were you planning to be here through Zoom next meeting, or?
For the next meeting, I will probably have to be remote. Yes.
That would be the 4th of December. So maybe by then, and I now have the insurance figure, so I guess I can do the insurance and the personnel. And then that should be the end of the first run through.
When should we expect to have the reviews and stuff set? Since normally we would do that to set the rates for the next year.
You mean the employee reviews? They'll be done by your next meeting.
Okay.
Or mine will. Let me say that.
Okay.
So that's it for budgets.
Oh, did Rob?
Are there any?
Oh, and Rob's got the emergency. He's not
He already
taking a
told
raise
us.
or anything.
Do we have
the
any?
same since-
What do we have left for budgeting to look at?
Just those two, I think, personnel and the insurance.
Okay. Can you send? I know you've been tracking it in the spreadsheet worksheet that we've worked on previously. Can you send out an updated version of that with the figures across all of them so we can take a look at it?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. All right. So that figures out the budget presentations, which moves us to the tax rate update,
This is my favorite subject.
which we really wanted to have set last time and the time before.
So here we are with the tax rate. I found out today that the school is done and the DOE blessed it, the Department of Education.
Oh, okay.
That they blessed it. I talked to DRA today, because she's the one that called me, and she said, we probably will not get a rate until next Monday, because it's Thanksgiving week. I have the MS1, the total value of the town did go up almost 60%.
Oh.
Revamp.
So,
That's still
it's not a
60
surprise.
doesn't matter.
I need the board to sign the MS1 so I can, and I'm sorry I didn't send this to you earlier so you could memorize it, but.
Yeah, memorize it, really.
Culvert's all dug out, so the water's gone.
You gonna fill in our positions?
Yes, yeah, actually, I've got Dave's here, but.
Ah. I don't have enough room for my name.
I thought it was kind of obvious. So that has, those are just the figures that's in back.
I know, I
And
believe
Pillsbury
you.
Lake at the end,
Pillsbury Lake at the end, they'll love us.
their valuation.
Our favorite little.
Because again, they get the different rate.
Yep.
Thank you for taking that truck over the other day, that was awesome.
Thank
Good night,
you.
folks. Happy
Night.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You too.
Don't eat too much pie.
I will
Too late
try
for
to.
that.
I'm gonna head too unless you guys.
Bye,
Something we
thank
said.
you for coming,
No, I
staying,
just-
keeping me out of
I
trouble.
say goodnight to the kiddos before they go to sleep. so
Yeah,
nice.
that's
Yeah.
right.
I like to make it home
You
around.
gotta
here.
do that,
Yep,
come on.
All right.
I think of them every time I deliver newspapers by your house.
They're probably outside. You gotta dodge them in the road. That's
Yeah, they went from here to, holy crap, overnight.
I know.
I guess there was one public announcement thing that I told Dana. Can I interrupt here? Is that?
Please.
I know it's a point of order type thing, but we
Interrupt
are gonna
us.
burn the house, green laws, on the
What?
3rd. I was just talking to Emmett about it. All the paperwork's filed with the state DES. The asbestos abatement was negative, so thank God for that. And then,
Awesome.
dispatch knows about it and stuff. We'll, just so you know, we'll have apparatus that Sunday morning.
Oh,
We'll
Sun-
do-
Sunday morning?
the 3rd, yeah. And it was the only day, I tried to do it the 2nd on a Saturday, and there was another train and burn that's happening in Deering, so.
Oh, wow.
So this is Sunday.
Dispatch doesn't want two going on at once. and I
Sunday
don't
the
blame them.
3rd,
No.
roughly where, for people that don't know the name?
It's White Plains Road,
It's
710.
710 White Plains Road.
Green Law's old.
Did you check with the State Historical Society to
Oh,
see if
jeez.
that's okay?
It was built in 1969,
Yeah.
so it's past
I'm
the
sorry, I could
historical
not help
stuff.
that.
So you're really doing that Thanksgiving weekend, huh?
The following.
It's
The weekend after.
Huh?
Yeah, the
Oh, the
weekend
week
after.
after, oh, okay.
Yep, so 2 weeks out, roughly.
Oh, okay,
More or
that's
less.
better.
Bring your marshmallows.
Thank you.
Just to
Thank
keep you in the loop in case anybody asks or. whatever.
Okay, no, that's good.
Thank you very much, that's a
Alright.
good.
Happy
good
Thanksgiving,
announcement.
Thank you.
Can we put that announcement on the website so
I
it
already
doesn't
wrote it
surprise
down.
anybody? Perfect.
good idea.
I'm sure I'm gonna get phone calls. So
All right.
they burned down the town on the 3rd.
The other thing with the tax rate, once I get what the DRA will bless, I'll need to meet with you so that you can
Bless it.
bless it. And I would like to do that next Monday, if possible.
Okay, I was gonna suggest that, next Monday, at a similar time as our meetings might make sense to finish the budgeting and so on, so we basically tie everything up. So does that work for everybody?
Could we do it any earlier? A week from today, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, a week from today.
Russ and I are available early.
And we're available very early.
I might be able to do it like during the day, but I'll probably be on my way back from Concord to do it like, so a 5:30 or something would probably be not really feasible.
So but you said during the day?
I might be able to do it during the day. It-
I can do it. I would like that. It's nights.
Let's see, so how about we say after lunch or at 1?
So now that I've said that, I am thinking that it's probably, I won't get the figure until
Probably close of business.
Monday. And if it doesn't come in before that, how would Tuesday look for everybody? I'm really anxious for the rate, as you can guess.
Yeah. I can be, in the afternoon, I can be flexible. Yeah, I can do that too.
Tuesday doesn't really work during the day for me, but I should be able to do Tuesday evening. So,
He said he can do Tuesday, he can't do Tuesday during the day.
Oh.
But he could in the evening.
So hopefully
Whatever.
Monday.
so, why don't we plan for a Monday and assume that we'll get what we need? Actually, let me step back. I know that basically the thing that we would talk about would be offsetting of taxes, which I don't think we have any real funding wiggle room, especially we've already got the policy saying that we're trying to get more of our unassigned fund. So I don't think we have.
We have 520,000 now in the fund balance.
But I don't think we have funding unless we're deeming it like an emergency reason to put towards that offset as we work our way back up to what we
Right, I mean,
wanted.
your policy, you won't be able to
So do we
satisfy
just
that.
need a motion to say that we would be following our policy? Or do we need to actually make a motion that we're accepting a specific tax rate? Because if it's the latter, if it's the former, we could do that even now if people were prepared.
Well, and I'm gonna, when I have that tax rate, I have to print the warrant for Karen, which you would need to sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say, no, I don't need you, but I.
So we wouldn't necessarily need a meeting, but
Well, that's
we
what
would
I
need to
was
come
thinking
sign it.
Right.
Sign it. Just sign.
So
And
I think we can plan to take care of it Monday, and if we
'Cause-
need to come sign something Tuesday, we should be
Okay,
able to do that.
are you saying, that the board is not planning to use any of the fund balance toward offsetting taxes?
I believe that's what our policy would kind of guide us towards. I don't know if the board
that's
wants
the-
to discuss that.
I would need to understand better, because what you're saying is where we're at, there's not a lot of wiggle room, correct? And that the policy says that if that's the case,
We're supposed to have more.
Right.
yeah. So I don't know how would we, I think what I'm understanding is, where would we wiggle?
Well,
exactly.
I mean, I can wiggle, but I don't know, reduce dollar bills.
I guess I'm just making sure, because yes, the town policy does state one thing, and if you're gonna go by the policy, you have no wiggle room. However, the DRA, there are towns that do not have a fund balance, which
Really?
I think is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, right.
Well, then you have to be taking out
So,
cans.
but anyway, I just wanted to understand, I'm not telling you should take any of the fund balance, I'm just saying.
I was also
could.
wondering if you want to see the rate before you make that decision.
What was that?
Well, I would like them to see the rate, I'd like to have that.
Yeah.
But,
But how do we decide any other way?
But I don't think it really changes the discussion of, do we have the funds to do it? Because we've been basically cash flow strapped because it hasn't been large enough. And that's why we set the policy that we signed in earlier this year to the schedule that we did, and we're under that, so.
well, hopefully I'll have the rate next Monday.
I mean, unless there's some like, oh my goodness, we added tons of taxes that we shouldn't have, I don't see any.
Yeah.
Like, if there's an emergency reason, then we can consider that, but otherwise I don't see how we could possibly do so.
What time are you thinking on Monday?
One.
Did you say
Did
one?
one sound good to everybody on
1
Monday?
p.m.
1?
Yeah,
Yeah, next Monday.
okay.
What's the Dana date? will call.
27th.
No, thank you.
He was already called out.
27.
He preemptively called out.
Yeah.
Already?
So we will set
Oh, they
a
did?
No, you did.
select
You
board
preemptively called
budget
out.
workshop at 1.
Oh, no, no.
No, you don't.
I'm sorry, I'm washing my hair
So why don't we set that up as a budget workshop at 1 for downstairs in the conference room?
Okay.
though. Okay.
And we can do the workshop anyway if we know the times.
While we're on the tax rate issue, I'll just tell you that, as you know, I've been really after the department heads about educating them about encumbrances. We have in the budget left about 280,000. So the sky isn't falling as much as I have told everyone it is, and I think for what we've got going, I think we'll be okay and not get into trouble with the budget. And that might even open it up, they might ask for some encumbrances. But they do know, they don't agree with me, but they do know that we have to make sure to protect the bottom line, that's really important. I think I'm going to be asking you in a minute to do a motion for the trustees of trust funds, And that is a $300,000 transfer that would be going into our general fund. We have about 200,000 in the general fund left, so that will give us up to 500, so we can operate for another month fairly comfortably, without paying the school. The taxes, we need to have 600,000 by, I think it's December 17 or something like that for the county, which I think will happen. So, I like to be optimistic, which is not usually my thing, but I think we're going to get through this year.
Good.
And this has really been a tough year, money-wise.
Shane, you're a big help,
Well,
so we're doing okay.
well, I did talk to the bank about what happens if we have to go for a TAN. But I told them, I said, I'm hoping I don't have to deal with it. But, and they're really very cooperative and helpful, and it's obviously something the treasurer has to initiate.
Mhm.
But we got that, so we're kind of prepared.
For the sake of safety, in case we don't have the numbers and stuff that we need, in order to make sure that we have time to notice, why don't we notice a second meeting Tuesday evening, and we can just cancel it Monday if we don't need it.
Okay. Tuesday at 6:30?
Sure.
Does it have to be that late?
And I could probably do it at dinner.
Oh, you mean, because you could go home and.
We'll just order a pizza.
Order a pizza.
And eat it while we're
I think you should
eating.
make a supper. For me, like 5, but I
Okay.
didn't.
So,
Does-
what was the time, 6:30 or 5?
No,
5:30?
you said 6:30, right?
Yeah, let's keep it the normal time, just 'cause
Okay.
that's what people.
And
kind of
hopefully we
expect.
won't need to
And
do
ho-
it.
and hopefully we'll just cancel it Monday, but.
Yeah. So I guess that's all I have to say about.
Because everything will be right with the DRA and we'll be able to finish our jobs.
We hope so.
I hope so. I mean, I've been working with them, and actually I've had a lot of fun with them because they've been.
A lot of
They've
fun.
been hearing from me a lot.
Hey, but that's all right. Just
They're very helpful there.
Just
All
be
right.
nice to 'em.
So that moves us on to new business, intent to cuts.
We have a couple of intent to cuts, which Russell has given me for your
Busy
consideration.
year with intent to cuts.
What's that?
It's a busy year with intent to
I
cuts.
Yeah.
couldn't hear what he said.
It's a busy year.
Oh, busy year for
We had
wood,
like
huh?
4 last year.
You have to
We
do them
had-
on both
We're
of
already
these.
up to, I think,
I did speak
10
with Russell
this year.
somewhat severely because to make sure that we had these filled out correctly.
uh-huh.
Nice.
I didn't take one of them, you took one of them.
Don't be blaming me for things.
Try to get along, kids.
Work
will
with
ya?
me on this one.
There you go, my dear. Sign, oh, sorry.
And I don't remember which is which. I don't.
Fair enough, Russ.
Oh, my gosh.
We have fun.
It's too much fun.
Yeah, no, that's good. You're supposed to have fun. Are you kidding me?
We didn't have fun, huh? I know.
Well, I'll be behind.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
That
my
makes more
free
sense.
pen,
Wow.
it's got my name on it and
Wow.
everything.
So they're probably not using that to
Huh?
access for it.
I don't know, they keep sending them. They think I'm gonna buy 1,000 pens, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I just, you know, what the
Interesting.
heck. Oh, man. I gotta go back to work. I don't wanna do that either, so.
I thought we
Kids are trying to get me to retire.
And you're fighting it all the way.
All right. Any
I've been doing
further
papers for
correspondence?
39 years, you know that? It's a long time.
Last month, I told you that we had gotten this email, last meeting, from this lady, Ellen Silly, who
Oh.
lives in South Carolina, and they have very slow mail there. And you asked me to get a copy of the envelope, and Russ pulled it out for me, and it's postmarked April 20th. So it doesn't look like it was in time.
Ah,
Am I right on that?
Yeah, you're right, I keep the records for a reason.
Okay.
Okay.
What did she wanted? Did she wanted to get her taxes
No, she wanted to
No.
get the penalty reversed.
Oh, penalty, yeah.
But it's
Because she
clearly
didn't-
after, it
Yeah.
wasn't postmarked the 15th.
She's
If it was, then we
I knew.
If it was
she lived in
postmarked the
Webster,
15th, I
so
would've took it as timely filed.
different.
Yeah, yeah. If it was postmarked, yeah, Russ has a point. He would have,
Doesn't
taken
matter
it.
what date, it could show up today if it was postmarked on the 15th, and I would remove the penalty.
Gotcha.
um,
That's fair.
we got a letter from NHMA telling us of all their services, because they also told me how much it was gonna cost us this next year, which it did go down a little bit, actually.
Really?
I'm trying to find out where.
How did
I
it
know, I
go
was looking
down?
to see, I didn't see it, but I
Um,
didn't read it that closely.
There's, I'm taking a wild guess here, but I'm guessing it's because there's a bit less in the form of legal and other hourly services, because this is not the start of the biennium for the state legislature. And so this is not the year that they're coming up with their platform that they'll be doing for the next 2 years. We're in the middle of that.
Right.
I
So it
believe
probably
you.
goes down and then goes up again.
Yeah, right, yeah, right. Then
Well,
it'll
we'll
see-
enjoy it while it happens.
Yeah, right.
Then we also got a letter from the DOT with our, talking about our block grant. We got the fourth quarter block grant.
We'll take it.
Is that the normal block grant, or is that the extra one that had shown up in the legislature?
No, this is the normal one,
Okay.
rather than the abnormal one. And then I have minutes and motions.
And in the correspondence, I'll just make note that we brought it up in the joint meeting, but Hopkinton Board and our board got the joint letter from Bonnie and the recycling committee over at the transfer station, which most of the points were brought up during that period. And we have no public here, so there's no public comment anymore. So minutes and motions. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Does anybody have any changes?
For me,
No, me either.
Would someone like to make a motion about the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of
November
November
6th.
6th.
November 6th, and second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We had non-public meetings.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we had the non-public too.
Which were sealed, by the way.
Sealing without a seal.
Yeah. Dave doesn't have a seal.
You can't seal
Yeah,
it.
it's saying the seal, sorry. Actually, no, I think the non-public was from the previous, because I don't see it in our packet.
And I saw it.
Well, November 6th is the last non-public we had.
Right.
Did you not get it?
Yeah, I got,
I thought we did, but let's see.
Okay.
Okay, to seal the non-public minutes, I don't have the non-public attached at the end of this. I know I've read through them. Do you have
that's
them?
fine. Thought I did.
Because that's not the actual non-public meeting, that's
Right.
saying that
Right,
we did
but
it
I
and
did,
then
I thought
exited.
I saw it in my email.
I think she's
It
got
says
it.
non-public session, November 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I included
Do
it
you
in the
wanna,
packet.
do you
but-
wanna just, yeah,
Oh, I see, it was ahead
Okay.
of the normal meeting.
because I know I saw it in my
I thought I
email.
saw it too, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that is there. So any discussion or changes to the non-public minutes?
No.
All right, I would move that we accept the non-public minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So that should take care of that. And so now we have our,
I think I'll give you these are
Wonderful.
the Visa
Bills.
bills that I paid out of the checking account.
oh, that's a good motion.
You always read them. I trust you.
Well, so did I. I just,
You just want more reading materials.
well, Sometimes it'll.
Well, I try to keep my own personal stuff so that you don't know what it is.
Well, right.
You still got a couple more years to work.
I got a few more years left, yeah.
Told you can't retire till I'm.
You know what I'd like to stay to the grade and close to being done.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll probably.
Oh, that'd be like 5-6 years for a
So
good
I'll probably
shape.
be around.
All right, I like it.
That will be interesting, I have to say. That will be very
I mean,
interesting.
I did tell him, I mean, he had to give me the, well, you know, okay. If I was gonna run again, he had to stay until I was done. So you got at least 2 more years.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I guess this is all about Dave. All right.
Oh, no, it's all about Daniel, because otherwise, no.
No, but meaning your tender.
Well, as my daughter said to me not long ago, she says, "Are you planning to work till you're 100?" And I said, "What do you mean by that?" She says, "Oh my God," she said, "you're still working."
You're so old, my God.
Dead, yeah.
Yeah, really.
How old are you?
I'll be 70 in April.
Good
So,
year.
You know, and you know what? 70's the new 50.
That's
Right,
true, that's right.
Oh, I dropped one.
That's,
There you go. Want that back.
My father was always very young.
no,
And he
that's,
was, you know,
that's the
so
way
I'm
to
gonna
be.
take his genes.
And sometimes it keeps you,
Well, you know.
as long as you're not so stressed, you know.
And I
Yeah.
tell this to Maureen, with all due respect, I said, I can't see that be good all day with you. And she says, that goes 2 ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't feel sorry for her, she can hurt me. These are the motions for the trust fund transfers and the copies of the bills that go with them.
You can look at that if you I trust Dana and Russ and you guys.
Let me just kind of pass along.
Sure. Isn't that the rest of? Yes, that's the rest of the.
So what happens is even though this has all been paid, then it, 'cause
So this has all been paid out of the general fund, and then we're asking the trust funds to reimburse our fund.
okay. And it just breaks it all down.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was almost
Oh,
like
that's even
teasing
more
you.
there.
I was like teasing you, wasn't I?
Who made the motion, who seconded it?
Yeah, that's right, it was up in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Now, you just figure out how that happened.
I can
And then
imagine.
somebody knew it was in the ceiling and gave it, and brought it down.
Unbelievable.
So somebody did something really weird.
Yeah, no, I love that.
But I do too.
Hey, now,
I
I
have a
resemble
little
her.
tag, I just have to, you know, it has her name on it, I just
Okay,
have
let
to
me
find it.
look
in
through
my
this so I know how I
stuff.
wanna say
She was a
stuff.
good artist,
Hmm.
never
Oh,
self-taught
right.
and everything, so she had, I have numerous paintings of hers.
So Dave's gonna make the motion.
And I even, she started me painting tollware and stuff, and woodware, and then I sold it all, and I don't have any that I made left. But maybe I'll start again, who knows? My kids keep saying I should retire. I don't know, it's hard.
Pretty have to go down through and kind of say all that.
No,
Oh,
I could,
no, please.
but
I don't think.
I
We're
don't,
already excited to
I don't
pay
think
people.
we really need to. Because it's already all been checked via the payments and the individual
Mhm.
bills that we've gone through and issued the checks, so. I would move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check in the amount of $344,525.72 payable to the town of Webster to reimburse the town for expenses to be withdrawn from the capital reserve funds and expendable trust funds as now listed. $62,230.33 from the Bridge Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, $210,524.28 from the Highway and Roads Capital Reserve Fund, $42,590 from the Road Preservation Expendable Trust Fund, $14,960 from the Reappraisal Trust Fund, and $2,969.43 from the Town Hall Capital Reserve Fund, and $11,251.68 from the Webster Hopkinton Transfer Station Capital Reserve Fund. Again, the total of $344,525.72.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have any further motions or signings?
No further signings. I would like to have a non-public session under 91A, section 91A, colon 3,
Okay.
2A, personnel.
Personnel.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm gonna get there, yeah.
That's
All
right.
I would move that we enter into non-public session at 8:35 under personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
As per usual, we will immediately adjourn following the non-public session, so there will be nothing further.
Yay.